Hi, Lee. Is your sound not working? Yeah, I can't hear you. No. Maybe change your audio down by your microphone in the corner there. Hi, Kayla. Hi, Bob. Welcome back.
Thanks.
You survived tax season.
Yes, I did.
Most of it, I should say. It's not over yet.
How do I call in here?
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, please enter the meeting password followed by pound.
Does that work now, Lee? No.
The meeting as an attendee and will be muted throughout the meeting.
There's Tom. Can we hear you, Tom?
I hope so.
There we go. Okay, so Lee's having audio trouble.
Okay.
Did you go down? If you go on the arrow by the speaker, Lee, you should be able to test your speaker and microphone and see which one you're using. There's a little arrow that points up. Do you see that? Okay. No, we can't hear you yet. Joe Boudreau is sitting in our audience here. Just a minute. We'll get him moved over. Kayla, Martin is expected to join us. He may just be a few minutes late.
Okay. So do you want to see if Lee can hear us or just talk? Wait,
He can hear us, right, Lee? We just can't hear you. Or you could try dialing in like Bob did, I think. You want to get started while you
Yeah,
troubleshoot?
okay.
You can
Um,
utilize chat as well, Lee, I
right,
guess.
yeah, I mean, that could be an option. Hopefully, I mean, it'd be more useful, obviously better if we can all hear each other. Okay, so I'd like to open up the May 1st, 2023 Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agency meeting at 7:04 p.m. Our first meeting item is 23-06 14 New Road. So this is an application we heard. We've walked the property and we heard a little bit of updates from last week. And do we have the applicant?
We do. We have the property owner and Mark Davis, engineer, Matt Pop, landscape architect, all available here for 14 New Road.
Okay.
Hey. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah,
Yes,
Yes.
And I don't know if you also have Victoria was going to attend, the owner. Okay.
yes, she's coming over too, Mark.
Hi,
Okay,
guys.
Hi.
hi, Victoria. And
Very
just for the record, Lee signed off and will be rejoining from a different
Okay.
computer for audio.
Okay. Great. Okay, so I think we had some discussion last time about making sure there was communication with Amtrak and with the neighbor and kind of clarifying the trees and what, you know, for our purposes, we're concerned with that bit near and connected to the wetland.
Yeah, no, if we're ready, I'll go ahead.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Mark Davis. I'm the engineer for the project, and our offices are on Temple Street in New Haven. Also with us is Matt Pop, is the landscape architect, and he's also a certified soil scientist, and Victoria Baster, who's the owner of the property. And I gave you a bit of a rundown last time and explained the project and went in a bit of detail, and Aaron's report also is summarizes it pretty well. One thing I would say is we talked with Ross McCartney, the neighbor, 32 New Street, and weren't able to come to an agreement with him. So the alternative that I had shown last time, where we would move all the drainage over and access from his property, we're not able to do that. Now I've had a couple of additions to the plans that I can show you here quickly if I'm able to share. It looks like I'm set up to share my screen here. Okay. And we'll open first the drainage plan, sheet C3. Okay, here it goes. Yeah, my laptop is a little bit, it's older, so it's a little bit slow, but let's see, let me click this thing off so I can see this. So what we've added to this plan is we had talked about doing soil tests in the area of the where we're going to do the stormwater system. And so the test locations are added to that. There, if you see this, we dug 2 test pits here. They were 8 to 9 feet deep, which is the depth at which the bottom of that stormwater retention system is going to be. And we also did a couple percolation tests also adjacent to those 2 deeper pits. And the results of those are added here up in the upper left-hand corner of this plan. And what we found basically right underneath the driveway base was a stratified sand and gravel, like we expected. We did percolations down to that depth, and they were pretty rapid. So there shouldn't be any issue with the the retention system being able to dry out and function the way it needs to, so it can take on, stormwater during the storms and then be dried out for the next storm, so it's ready to operate. The other thing that I added is I added an additional sheet to the plans, and I'll open that here. And what I did is, and I'm calling this sheet C-3A, and it's a larger scale drawing of the drainage easement to give more detail of what we're doing there. And so what I can do, I'll zoom up here a bit and kind of point some of these things out that we were, just to explain a little bit better how this will all work. And so we've, well, first I'll show we've got our 100-foot setback limit here. So everything on this side is within the regulated area. And what I've shown on the plan is we've got the silt fences on all plans, but I'm indicating the trees that will need to be removed in order to put the drain in here. I'm showing we've got sheet piling that we will put in behind Ross's building to protect that during construction, and so that will be pushed in place prior to excavation starting, and then we'll dig, and that will support any soil behind that in the building, and then we'll form everything up for our outlet. And then what we'll do is we'll cut that off a couple feet below grade so it's not sticking up and exposed, but we'll leave it in place so it stays there as a support. We also added I'm calling it a trash rack at the inlet, but really is to keep any animals from coming up and making a home inside the pipe and then being in there when we have a storm and causing issues. Also showing here a temporary concrete block wall to support this slope while we're making access down to the end of the pipe construction while that's going on. And so that'll be a temporary, for lack of a better word, mafia block wall, maximum height 5 feet. And then once they'll construct that they'll take trees out as they go along, construct that, head down, and then as they come back, they'll remove that, restore the slope, seed that, and vegetate it so everything's stable once that's all done. We also added a note here onto the plan stating that we're going to, the plans, once we finalize, will be submitted to the New Haven and Shoreline Railway Company, which is administered by Amtrak out of their Philadelphia office. And so we'll submit the final plans for them and for their comments. And again, whatever they require, we'll do, because of course we don't want to cause a hazard or make anybody unsafe. And then the final thing I would say is that again, the only reason we're in before the agency is for this work within 100 feet, which is to put in this storm drain outlet because of the severe flooding that we get. And I think this is your town. You folks are familiar. I think a lot of folks are aware of the type of flooding that we get back here on the property. And then that's really all I have. I'll end the sharing here if I can. And there we are. And I don't know if Matt or Victoria have anything to add, but happy to answer any of the the agency members' questions.
Mark, I'm Matt Pop, landscape architect, professional wetland scientist, environmental land solutions. The landscape plan was revised to reflect the changes. So some of those bayberries that were maybe planted just off the site are now on the site. And the disturbed area along the base of the railroad track slope gets seeded with a native warm season grass mix. So that's it quickly.
All right. Does anybody on the agency have questions?
I just wanted to ask, Mark, what did you say the neighboring property owner wasn't in agreement with?
Actually, to summarize and kind of be a bit blunt, he was looking for area in the front of our yard to be able to maneuver his vehicles, and in exchange for us moving that pipe and we've got landscaping in our entrances up there. We weren't really willing to do that, so that's why that fell apart.
Okay, so it had nothing to do with the easement where the pipe is being replaced? It was more of a quid pro quo thing.
Yeah, it was, I think there's an exchange being sought.
Okay,
I mean, I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but that's,
okay,
So
thank you.
the that is a steep slope, and that that we walked on, and I'm just looking at the newly revised plans. Is that pipe more at the top of that slope now, or is it?
we have that pipe as close as we can get it to the edge of the easement to be able to construct it. So we're as far away from that slope as we can get within our easement.
Okay.
And we need that room to move that. We'll put that in with a trench box to keep everything tight so that we don't have any type of movement of soil into the excavation while we're working, and then fill it as it goes along. So we're as far away as the slope as we could possibly get within our easement.
How deep is the pipe again? I didn't see a pipe profile on the drawings.
It's going to be about roughly 8 feet through there deep.
At the end.
Well, through the whole,
discharge.
it's exposed at the end and at grade, but on average through that, or maybe not so much on average, but in general throughout that construction, it's going to be a maximum of 8 to 9 feet deep to the bottom of the excavation.
Okay.
And the installation of the pipe is, all your activities occur within the easement area?
Yes.
So excavation is going to be directly into vehicles? Or are you stockpiling on?
Well, the way it'll work is we basically what we'll do is we'll build a route from the property through the easement to the end of the pipe, over the surface. And so as we do that, we'll take the first tree, we'll take the first portion of the slope, we'll construct the first part of that temporary retaining wall, and then we'll proceed to build, for lack of a better word, a kind of a temporary construction pathway out to the end of the pipe. And then once we get to the end of the pipe, we'll put in the sheet piling to protect the Ross's existing building there, and then we'll start excavation for the outlet. And then we'll put the trench backs in and go one length of pipe. And once the one length of pipe and the outlet's in, we'll backfill over that, stabilize where the outlet is, and then bring the trench box back and basically move backwards from the end, installing from downstream to upstream like you typically do for drainage or sewers. And we'll move that trench box along until everything's backfilled, and then we're all the way out of the easement back onto the property. Then that's done, and then we'll go back, restore the slope, topsoil and seed, get the plantings in there, and then it's finished.
And obviously it'll be important to keep those plantings, all that vegetated area vegetated. So I assume you'll be monitoring, or somehow that's incorporated into the plan to make sure that all the vegetation takes and that it's what it needs to be.
Right. And the important thing is to get it vegetated as soon as we're done with any disturbance there, so it can get stabilized. And then, it's our easement, and we're responsible for maintaining that. And also we're not going to want any, we don't want to remove more trees than we need to, but also on the other hand, we don't want new trees growing that are going to seek out and try to get into the joints of the drain and after water. So there'll be a need to maintain that.
Okay. Are there other questions from the agency?
I had one last question. So Jim McManus was the wetland scientist who delineated and provided a soils report. I know that Matt is also a licensed a registered soil scientist, excuse me. And so did Matt take on the potential impact or, aspect of that? Because I see that Jim didn't provide any comments regarding the proposed activity as it relates to the water course. So I just wanted to see where that was.
I think we've had Matt take that, he's done all the landscaping plans and is responsible for all that on the site. And so we've had him take that on. The project.
This is a Matt Pop. I'm a professional wetland scientist, not a soil scientist. So
I'm
Jim
sorry,
and I-
Matt, excuse
no,
me.
I think,
I apologize.
so I think Mark mentioned that. So just like to correct the record, but the
Thank
main
you.
impact to the wetlands again would be from erosion. So we just want to make sure at this project that the silt fence is and the rest erosion controls are properly maintained. It's luckily I think it's a short term maybe disturbance to the upland review area. So again, I think that again the main impact would be from erosion from this.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. And
And-
again,
and
that's the
then-
erosion controls are important, and also getting things seeded and stabilized as quickly as possible once the work is done in that area.
Correct.
Right, and refresh my memory, Mark, if when discussing the stormwater, the proposed stormwater system and the water quality treatment, when in that system does that control structure or when is that designed to bypass the
Right.
treatment and direct discharge stormwater from the paved parking lot into Fence Creek through
Right,
this?
and I'll note that the that water quality structure, the hydrodynamic separator, is actually ahead of the stormwater retention. So
Yes.
anything that's going to the retention also it'll go through that first. So we're not putting anything with sediments with metals or anything like that into that retention in the groundwater. That will be taken out. That's designed that the way it's designed is the first flush and the initial rainfall will all go through that chamber and into retention. It's designed to pass the 25-year storm. The 50 and 100-year storms that are greater than that will fill that system first, go through the separator, fill it first, and once the flow starts to exceed the amount that it can take, then that will bypass at that point. But the first flush will be retained. And again, you also don't want those higher flows going through that system once you've exceeded that capacity, or else it'll flush everything through, and then it kind of defeats the purpose of having all that. So that's a bit by design. And again, we're providing zero increase in runoff for the site.
Okay, and have you provided a maintenance plan for that, or is that something that you would be able to do upon condition?
Right. Well, typically we can do that on condition. And what I recommend for maintenance is that you clean everything out in the spring after the last snowfall to get all the whatever sand or sediment that you used on the parking lot, and then you clean it again in the fall after all the leaves are down to get all that out so it's ready and operational. That's really the key to the maintenance for that system. And I would include the catch basins and everything else with that to make sure everything's ready to operate for that's got capacity for storm.
And I guess I have one other question. You're gonna, after, whatever's finalized, you're going to send it on to the train people, Amtrak or
Yes.
Shoreline. So what do you, is there anything that you would anticipate they might ask that would impact the wetlands or whatever we condition?
I think
I
they're
wouldn't want them to say something that would be against what we're saying.
I think their biggest concern is going to be our actions during the tree removal to make sure that we don't have an accident happen while we're doing that work and have something that affects the tracks, because we're not in there right away. We're adjacent just like we are on our property. So that's what I see as their biggest concern.
Okay, well, and I think it would be great if you could communicate whatever their concerns are to Aaron or
Okay.
to us, so that we at least know what they're asking, so everybody's on the same page with respect to what's happening on the property.
And we did send a set of plans to them early on. The discussion was more about there's a fence behind the property, which I think was installed when the building was built, and was kind of part of the property, but it actually is in there right away. And so we had some discussion about what we want to do to upgrade that. So they do have a complete set of plans of what we want to do, but we want to finalize them and let them get a look at the final plans to hear their comments and then address that. But we'll make sure we get that. We'll provide whatever comments they have to Aaron. So that's in the record.
Great. Anybody else have comments, questions?
I was just thinking that Amtrak could watch what you're doing with their helicopter they've had out there for the last 2 weeks.
Apparently they're watching something.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, although it's not a public hearing, Ross McCartney has his hand raised as an attendee.
Okay. He can speak directly affiliated.
Ross,
can
we
you
can hear you if you'd like to just identify yourself and make your comments.
Sure. Hi, Ross McCartney, owner of 32 New Road. So a couple of questions on the trees. Those are some pretty large trees that they're going to have to come out of there. First and foremost is I'm assuming they're going to try to stay within their limits of the right of way. So Mark, is there a plan how to remove those trees? Obviously that's got to come out of there first before excavation begins. How do you plan to get those trees out of there?
They're going to have to be, realistically, they're going to have to be done one at a time. And we'll have to take one out, excavate forward a bit, take another one out. It's going to be time consuming, and the work will all be done within the easement. But that's really the only way to do that, is to because we got to get access to each one as we go along. And so that's how that's going to have to be done. It's going to be a step-by-step process.
And are the trees that come out, are they going to be replaced with anything? I heard you say grass.
Correct. We don't want to put any new trees over the top of the pipe, because they tend to seek, if they're too close to the pipe, they'll seek out water and gum up the joints. So grass, and I think Matt was saying we were going to put some bayberry. I mean, bushes and that sort of thing are fine, but the trees themselves are not appropriate for over the pipe.
Correct, Mark. Matt Pop. We are planting a bayberry, which is kind of a drought tolerant, deer resistant native shrub that you typically would find in this condition.
So any landscaping plans available for that yet, or have you not finalized that?
I think is that on the I believe that's on the landscaping plans we submitted. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt.
Correct.
Correct, and that's on the plans I set that Matt's landscape plan is in the set that I had sent along to you this morning.
Okay.
So there's a link directly on the agenda, and the plans are dated 4/26/23, and that revised plan set does address, as Matt indicated, addresses the new planting plan. Ross.
Yeah, thank you. I did get that.
Okay.
Just another question on the trees. So the trees that may not be directly removed, certainly there's going to be trees that might be impacted by, excavation, hitting root systems of other trees. How are we going to handle that as the digging progresses? And it's probably more of a just see as you go. I mean, if the root systems get hit and then the trees obviously have standing, at some point it'll die and then need to be removed at a later date.
We took a look, of course, we were out there and surveyed and located all the trees. And so the ones I marked are the ones that I think, based on our proximity to the trench and that to the root systems will need to come out. I think if we feel that in the course of the work, we're too close to a tree, that we may end up killing it. We'll have to take that out as well. But I think it's a pretty fair indication of which ones we're going to remove and which ones are far enough away from the work that we'll be able to let them stay.
Understood. Just a question on the application. I saw the application that went in for the wetlands. It has the address of 14 New Road listed on it, but it's the physical work is taking place on 32 New Road. Is that just how the application process works? And it's only for the person looking to seek the permit, or does the address where the physical work's taking place need to be added to that?
Aaron and I had discussed this early on, and I think it's appropriate that our address be the application, because we're doing the work and we're responsible for it. And so I think it's in our easement, it's for our benefit. I don't know if adding you to the application might somehow make you responsible for some of the work, and it's probably not appropriate.
Understood.
You indicate in the application specifically that the pipe replacement is within the drainage easement on 14 New Road. That's correct, right, Mark?
Yeah, the easement's on 32 New Road.
I'm sorry.
Right. That's correct.
Exactly what I meant, but nothing's coming out right on Monday today. Thank you.
Yeah, and the only thing that's more of a statement is just I've had a lot of concern over the actual work being done. It's a tight window to work within. A lot of earth moving, a lot of trees, big trees that get removed and certainly can never be replaced. So it's a big impact. And if there's a way to deal with stormwater on site versus going through all this work and risk of impacting the railroad. It'd be a preferred method for sure.
Well, and maybe I can add to that, and I'd mentioned it at the last meeting. We can certainly the soil is it's a stratified sand and gravel, and the percolation was pretty rapid into it. The problem is though, again, we measure the groundwater traveling through the ground in feet per day. Over the surface, it's measured in feet per second. The speed that the water is getting to us at a rainstorm is actually about a factor of 6,000 faster. And certainly the soil here is very permeable. It probably will take on a lot of water, but without being able to drain out the site, we may be able to change from being flooded every 1 or 2 years to like every 5 years, but it will get flooded. And there will be, there'll be occasions where you have a storm and the water is up in the wetlands and the water table is up and they have a storm right after that, and it'll be flooded and the property will get damaged. And so the only way really to provide protection and to make sure that we don't get flooded out is to have some sort of drainage from the site.
That's all I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And if I may add a couple of things, everybody, Victoria Bateser, property owner of 14 New Road. We bought this building now almost 2 years ago, and we're trying to remodel it, with the best tools that we have, including the premises as well. We want to make sure that it's the state-of-the-art building and the surrounding properties for the employees, but also for the people of Madison as well. We want to make the building and the property sustainable. We're utilizing the solar panels, the LED lighting. So, we're kind of stuck with doing this work. I wish the property was in better condition than it is, but we do have to move the water somewhere, and we are using the best resources in the area, Mark Davis and Matt Pop and Munger Construction, who's been in the area for 40 years doing business. They're a licensed, highly respected contractor. So we're trying to do, not cut any corners and do everything by the book and spend a lot of money doing it. So again, we're kind of stuck with this, and Mark has come up with a very good plan how we can mitigate the water issue we nearly had a flood inside the building that would have damaged a lot of the equipment for us. So unfortunately, it's a necessity for us that we have to do.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Just a quick question for Mark. That retention system that you showed, that's the first catchment for water before it leaves and goes into that pipe? Or was that a separate drainage system?
Actually, it's more the last in a way. We've got catch basins from the site that'll bring everything together, and then that's piped through a single pipe into the hydrodynamic separator, which a swirl chamber, which will take out the floatables and take out any of the sediments. Then it will go into retention, and then once the retention is flooded, then it will go out to through the pipe and out to the wetland. So it's
Okay,
that's kind
so
of the
it's
last thing.
between the building and the pipe. Meaning it's before water gets to that long pipe to the water course, it goes through that separator and that retention system.
Yes.
Okay, so if you were to put a percentage on stormwater going in and water going out, would you say 20% leaves?
Well, let's.
Depends on the rain.
What we're doing is we're providing zero increase in runoff. So everything will go into that stormwater retention system at the first flush and the first inch until it floods. And then once it's flooded, then whatever is coming after will go beyond that. So it's I have to take a look at the numbers, how much of a reduction that is. I know that with the paved surface, the peak got rather intense. There is no increase in volume of water that's that the site has right now. So it's to say a percentage that goes into that, it's maybe it's fair to say 15-20%.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Mark, oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Madam Chair. One,
Let's get it on.
currently, the grading does not allow for site runoff. The ponding that occurs in the parking lot does not make its way across the easement to Fence Creek currently,
Right,
correct?
not right now,
Because that
unless
pipe is not
unless it
functioning.
got really flooded, and then of course it would. But it would be, because once it reaches, if it got up to an elevation of around 20, yeah, it would finally overtop and go out there. I don't think anyone's seen that happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there other comments or questions? So Aaron, I know you had drafted a resolution. If we feel, that we want to act on this tonight, are there other issues we haven't discussed that you think we should cover, that we haven't covered? I know we've been pretty thorough.
Are you asking me or the agency?
I'm asking you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. No, I did ask the questions that came up and,
Okay.
as I was reviewing the revised plans, that I wanted, Mark to address.
Okay.
And now I guess, yeah, it's up to the agency if you feel you have enough, information based on.
All right. Agency members.
I'm ready. I'm ready to make a motion to approve it, but it would be helpful if Erin pulled up her memo too, probably.
I can. Let's see if I can go bigger.
Okay,
Did you want to make a motion, Lee, based on?
Sure. I move that we approve 23-0614 new road with the 4 conditions listed in Aaron's memo to the agency. And I guess we probably should add that the applicant should submit the railroad comments once they're received. That's the only other note that I wrote down during the discussion. Unless there's any others that other people want to add.
Okay, so we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Tom seconds. So discussion, yes, I think adding in that we'd like the applicant to submit the railroad comments to the agency, to Aaron, just to make sure we know everything that's happening on the property would be important. And anything else from the agency?
I would think that if the applicant gets any written correspondence from Amtrak, perhaps it could be added to the record.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we need to just keep track of everything associated with this application. Other
Other
comments?
than that, yeah, other than that, it's a very tight easement for this pipe, which is probably the original pipe, and most pipes over time need to be replaced, and I think this plan is probably the best, least impactful replacement plan, and I'm okay with it. I think it's a good plan.
Other comments? Okay, all in favor of the motion as amended? Raise your hand, say aye.
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 Okay. All right. Well, good luck.
All right,
Thank you all.
thank you.
Thank you.
I think a good
Thank
night.
you so much.
Thank you,
Have-
Mark.
Look.
Okay. So our next application is 23-12, 175 Fort Path Road. This is to understand and approve at some point, or understand, we guess we could start with some modifications to a previously approved commercial building. And then, as we discussed last meeting, there had been changes made that were not recorded or understood. And so last month, we asked the applicant to come back with some more information.
That's
And-
correct. It was my understanding from the last meeting that changes were identified between the approved drainage plan by the commission and changes that had taken place between Inland Wetlands and Planning and Zoning Commission approval several years ago. And so the applicant was asked to provide an as-built updating what changes have occurred, basically, comparison from the original inland wetlands approval to what is out there now. Some information we received information this afternoon after 3 o'clock from Michael Harkin. And maybe Mike, you can walk the agency through what new information you have. And so we can see if there's additional information that we still need.
Sure. I think the way we'll do it is, first of all, good evening, everybody. For the record, my name is Michael Harkin. I'm a professional engineer and principal of Harkin Engineering, located at 78 Wolf Hollow Lane in the town of Killingworth, Connecticut. Unfortunately, I wasn't at the last meeting. I had a prior commitment, a prior meeting for another municipality. So everything that I got, what was asked at the meeting, is really secondhand, and I may not have all the information that you guys had required, but I have a lot of it. Obviously, I designed the parcel 10 years ago, so I can walk you through everything that transpired with the approval process. And then I can go into my drawing that I just updated pursuant to what the surveyor had located out there. But first, I think the owner, Dave Milano, has prepared something or would like to speak before myself. So why don't I turn it over to Dave, and then I can get into the technical side of the project, okay?
Okay,
Okay, yeah, can you hear me
Thank you.
okay?
yes,
Yes,
Okay. You dialed in on a landline also, Aaron. I know you all had trouble hearing me last time. Is it possible to switch audio over to that?
I'm sorry, what, to go over to a landline?
Yeah, I dialed in also. I know you had trouble hearing
Is
me
it the
last time.
860 number or the 245?
59599.
Do you want to mute this one and I'll allow that to talk?
Yep.
Would that be clearer for you? Yeah, okay, hold on. Try that, Dave. Can you hear us? You have to unmute Dave first. That's not working at all. You have to, I don't know what the number is when you dial in to unmute.
We could hear him pretty well the way he was.
I know. Dave, why don't you try it the other way again? Because we could, yeah, try that.
Okay, all right, I'll try it this way. Let me know if there's any trouble.
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. So before we get into what Mike's presentation is, I'd just like to clarify the circumstances that have brought us to this point. And I'd obviously move forward again. And, you know, one thing that I'd like to do is counteract the perception that we've done something wrong here. So first, you know, big picture, and Mike, I don't know if you can display the current site plan, if you're able to share your screen or not.
Dave, why don't you just talk through it and I'll discuss things with the drawings as we go through it. When I
Okay,
present.
that's fine.
So, yeah, I just
So
don't know
big
what you're.
picture, it's a forest project. Phase 1 and phase 2 have been completed for several years now. They've been fully inspected and approved by staff. Now, if you're looking at the plan, this area encompasses building number 1, building number 2, and the entire south and east of building number 1, which includes the wetlands detention basin. Again, all of these areas have been fully approved, fully inspected, completed. The building that is being questioned is building number 4, which is a self-storage building to the far west side of the property. And again, I'd like to clarify the misperception that we did something wrong here, as the minutes from the last meeting don't necessarily reflect the fact that we received both verbal and written approval from your wetlands agent to proceed with construction of building number 4. And, you know, I'll be pretty brief here, but I'd like to give some history as to what went on. So let's start on October 14th, 2021. As we were preparing for building number 4, I sent an email to wetlands agent John DeLora, which stated in part the following. Attached is a preliminary sketch showing how we would like to combine the two small self-storage buildings into one L-shaped building. As discussed, we will be maintaining the existing property line setbacks, moving 20 feet from the wetlands, and there's no plumbing / water use / septic in these buildings, unquote. The email continues, quote, administratively approve this, unquote. Now that was October 2021. So following a conversation during which your wetland agent John DeLora was receptive to this idea, I followed up with another email. This one dated December 21st, 2021, which stated, quote, attached is a cover letter and map showing the self-storage building that we are planning to construct at 175 Fort Path Road. Map shows the completed phases along with the area encompassing this phase. Please let me know if you need anything else in order to receive the preliminary certificate of zoning compliance. Subsequent to this, after another conversation in which your wetlands agent was again receptive to our building, I followed up on last what were you able to process so that we can move ahead with the building permit, question mark, unquote. John's response was, quote, yes, just submit the building permit and I will review as the PCZC. Very importantly, his response was not, no, you need Wetlands Commission approval for this. His response was yes. Following this, we received the building permit and built the building that you see today. Now, this is the same exact process that we followed with the previous 2 phases of the project, and it's the same process that everyone follows. First, receive approval from the zoning / wetlands officer to proceed. Then after clearing that hurdle, apply for the building permit and then build the building. Apparently for this phase, the PCCC paperwork was never completed by town staff, which to my knowledge is the only reason why we're here tonight. But very, very importantly, we do not go rogue and defiantly construct this building here without permission. We relied on the verbal and written statements from your wetlands officer to move forward. Now, I hope this clarifies the circumstances for you as a clear name here. So if you have any questions regarding the timeline, feel free to ask. If you don't have any questions, as we discussed, Mike is here to provide some assurances for you that the overall impervious surface for the project has not increased at all during this entire process.
All right, thank you for your statement. So, well, I guess as we discussed at the last meeting, at least from the agency's perspective, we haven't seen any of the changes that you referred to that were okayed in 2021. And is that, but Aaron, go ahead. Am I missing something?
That is correct. There's no record. There are records of correspondence between David and John DeLaura requesting John to review the plans, whether or not they require modifications from specifically Planning and Zoning Commission. And there is documentation in email threads that John DeLaura requested that Dave submit an application for zoning compliance. There's no additional paperwork or trail of correspondence from that date, aside from a building permit being issued that did not include wetlands or planning and zoning review. I was here during this time period. It never came to my attention that there was a modification that was sought that would have required modification by the Planning and Zoning Commission, or perhaps as well inland wetlands review. This came to my attention when I was requested to do a final inspection for a final certificate of zoning compliance for a building that was already built. So as part of this process, we've requested information to explain to the agency what are the differences between building number 4 that was approved as 2 standalone storage buildings, and the L-shaped modification. And then Mr. Milano indicated he was also proposing some changes to the last building to be built, which is number 3. And those were fairly small footprint modifications. So at that time, at our last meeting, the agency requested, what was there, what are the differences? And as Michael Harkin was not available at that meeting, Todd Anderson was in attendance and had shared with the commission the original inland wetlands application approved plan, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so there were changes in the size of the stormwater detention basin and forebay area. And so that was one of the questions that came up at the last meeting that did not come up ahead of the wetlands discussion, was to request an as-built that shows exactly what changed with respect to the drainage system or any other improvements in that area from the original approval. There wasn't documentation readily available that clarified how that system changed from the inland wetland approval to a short time later to the Planning and Zoning Commission approval. And so that's the clarification that was sought. And I don't believe Michael's updated plan here shows any of that detention basin area.
No,
Maybe
it does not to cut you off, Aaron. I'm sorry for that, but no, it does not. But
yeah,
I am the key holder to all the approval process, so I can tell you exactly the time that detention basin was altered. But I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to say, no, my plan does not reflect that.
okay. Can you tell us what you have then and what?
Sure. Sure, I'm just
What
going to
we
share my
need.
screen.
so we can figure out what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Let me see. Let's go with the Harkin revised plan. Let me know when you guys can see it. It's popped up. Everybody see that plan that's in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, so what we basically have in front of you is, and I apologize again for not being at the last meeting, but I don't know if this was shown. This is an as-built drawing of building 4 that you can see here. That's the L-shaped drawing that Aaron was referring to. Again, originally, and I can pull up the plan, but originally this was broken into 2 distinct buildings, and it was a little bit closer to the wetlands. From what I can see is that the Milanos have combined the buildings into one and actually pushed it further away from the inland wetlands in this area. So that's the building 4, that's the storage buildings. And then the other building is building 2, which obviously is existing and occupied, and that's an as-built of that as well. And then they had some small modifications, which you can see here for building number 3. But as I was going through it, doing the analysis of what actually changed on the site in this area, we did notice that a lot of the landscape islands, the greenery, was removed from the project as it went along. So originally, you know, looking back into it, when we designed the detention basin, there's always a 1.5 factor of safety in a detention basin for the additional flows and the large storms that you normally don't get per se. So prior to the last meeting, I said, I believe I wrote a letter to the commission saying, hey, listen, there is an increase of impervious area. It is negligible, minor compared to the size of the detention basin and the calculations that we ran. But after the meeting, I got a report back that, you guys want to know how much impervious and, what the difference is. So basically the plan that you have in front of us is a revision to the original one that I sent in, where we have this curb line as built in. And the reason that this just came is we sent the surveyor out there last week to locate a bunch of the drainage on there to check for conformance. And we also had him locate the curb line and make sure everything was in conformance with the septic system and the proposed setbacks. They actually pushed this curb line area further in than before. So this plan shows that there's actually no increase in impervious now. It's a net zero, pre versus post. And in the drainage calculations, this area that you see here now adds all the green back that was originally taken away. So in the end, there is no increase in impervious. So the detention basin, the outlet structure, all the inverts, it doesn't have to be changed. So that's what basically this drawing is showing. The unfortunate thing is I just got the survey Thursday morning and didn't really have enough time to 100% get it in before Friday. So, we had to submit it today. We ran the calculations in these areas and, pre versus post for the impervious. So there's a net zero, and I do apologize for getting it in late. I believe it was like 2 or 3 o'clock today that we able to finish all this up, but that's what basically this drawing is showing. It's showing the existing conditions for building 4, which is a deviation from what was originally approved. The new layout for building number 3 that Mr. Milano would like to build, and then the existing conditions for number 2, and then how this area, the circulation and everything relates, has been tweaked with the location of building 4 and location of building 2 as far as an as-built. So that's what that is showing. Now, I also have a couple other drawings to.
Can I interrupt you and ask one question, Michael?
Yes.
The as-built from Todd Anderson, that the latest as-built that we were provided was from September 6th, 2022. You're saying there's a more recent survey from Anderson?
Yes, just recently. Well, we sent them out here to get additional information. It's not that this survey's updated as of yet. If you want him to add it, we will. He knows, per your conversation with, I believe, Dave Milano, that every drainage catch basin has to have top frames and inverts. All the storm drainage located at the final for the CO for the entire project. Tension basin, all that information has to be located on a plan and then signed off by both myself, your office, and I believe probably engineering, because they approved the drainage.
So one of the questions is, what is the change to the detention basin? That was one of the questions that the agency asked now. So the
Sure,
storm.
I can definitely go into that. Yeah, no, I could definitely go into that right now. So let me just stop sharing this screen, which is what Dave is looking for. And let me see if I can get another drawing up here. Let's start with the inland wetlands drawing approval. You give me a sec here. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
You're not sharing right now.
Just let me know when you can see that one.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so this is the original approval. As you can see, this is a major project. It really started off with, prior to this application, a forestry project where we came to the inland wetlands and basically cleared the site, getting ready for it. We took out the timber harvest. We came in with this layout with the buildings, and you can see where my cursor is. That's how the buildings 4 were set up, basically 2 separate buildings. You could see that Mr. Milano pushed this building up and connected it to this building. Again, moving it further from the inland wetlands. And then he built buildings number 1 first, then building number 2, followed by this building. And now we're looking at doing this building right here, which is building number 3. But the original plan, as you can see here, you can see where the detention basin is. It's in this area and in this configuration. Okay, this area was not pristine. This is where the hoop houses used to be for the farm, the old barns, the construction equipment, the boats and everything were in this area. It was being used as a storage yard where the rest of the site was basically wooded. So this is where all the farming basically took place.
What's the date on that plan, Mike?
Give me a second. This is, let me just zoom in here. Last revised 6/29/18.
So the planning and zoning, or the inland wetlands file has plans from May 2017. I believe were the last plans for the
Right,
inland.
we have this one labeled in our file as approved Inland Wetlands Commission. So that's that one that you had in May. They may have had conditions where we revised it and then submitted one final plan for the plan set. That generally happens if they have comments, but in our plans in our office, 6/29/18 with detention pond and utilities, as you see it, is our approved plan set.
In the wetlands meeting where we received the wetlands approval was July 2nd, 2018, which was 3 days after the date of this plan.
Okay, I mean, for whatever it is, this is in our office. This is the plan that we stamp as approved for the wetlands. So let me now go on to zoning.
Okay. Okay, I see that. And then, so what's the date for the planning and zoning commission revision?
So I'm gonna pop that one up there. So give me 1 second. So everybody can see the changes of the detention basin. Get rid of this one. That's the inland wetlands one as well. And let me come to.
Joe, do you have a question?
Somebody have a question?
Yeah, Joe has a question.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yes, I was practicing my hand.
I know, I was like, oh, he's got his hand up. So polite.
I didn't want to interrupt Mike, but Mike, that site plan from 2018.
Hey, Joe, I can't hear you. You're breaking up over here.
Oh, sorry. the site plan from 2018, which shows 4 proposed buildings on existing grade. Was there a site plan that showed proposed grade? Because I remember the site walk from 2018, and I remember the property sloping down to the wetlands, and there were dirt roads we were walking on. And at the site walk a few weeks ago, I was shocked at how high we were standing at the top of the grade. And I was wondering, did I miss something at a meeting where it was proposed how much fill was coming in? Like,
Yeah, actually, no fill came in. The reality is this top area, you were absolutely right. We were working through those dirt roads and you could see these lines right here, those existing contours that used to be there where it sloped off.
yep,
They cut the top area and pushed it to the lower area. So
Okay.
it wasn't like they were trucking in fill. It was an even cut versus fill situation. It was just moving
Okay.
it on site.
and was that mentioned at those meetings?
Absolutely. Yep.
There's no proposed grade shown.
100% there are.
Have.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
the Inland Wetlands Commission and the Planning and Zoning Commission, they all have spot shots, elevations, top and low grades, and it was discussed on the amount of material to be moved over there. Absolutely.
Okay, I just remembered how shocked I was the difference between 2018 and today, but that was my only question.
Yeah, and you know, I started this thing back in 2015, I believe. So we've been working on it for a while. But so this is the planning and zoning version. Could you guys see the screen? It's basically this detention basin, which was approved by wetlands, but now you start seeing these grades added in to the sides. Okay, so this is a different version that came back from some tweaking of the storm drainage with our discussions of this pipe providing cover over it. And Aaron, that was the permit set to the, and I'll go by this plan, and to follow up, I'll give you the cover because each sheet changes. This is 10/25/18. It's the permit set that we submitted to planning and zoning. And the real one that has them, because different sheets change with different things as we're going through. When you have a big plan set, the cover will also have everything. I'll get you the cover information too. But everybody could see this drawing. Now, what transpired was, and I can't remember because it's been so long ago, I don't know if this is when Mike Ott was leaving the town, but as you can see here, this detention basin was designed for the 2-year storm event. Okay. When we went to planning and zoning, we didn't get any input from the engineering department because I don't know if Johnny Iannacco wasn't appointed yet or something, but I do remember that the planning and zoning approved this based on the town engineer's review of the storm drainage system and any improvements that the town engineer wanted to make to the storm drainage system. So now I'll go back to the one that's actually been built, the approved plan that we submitted. Let me just go back here, guys. Bear with me here. Let me share screen, share. All right, so we got that one. Let me go, you got that one. And then we'll get the last one up here. A lot of drawings. And I apologize, these are big plan sets. I think it's an 8 or 10 page plan set, so it takes a little bit to load here. Anytime now, right? So let me answer another question why this is popping up. I believe I got a note from Dave Anderson that there was questions, why there was some drainage roof leaders direct discharging into the wetlands, higher up on the site. That was actually a requirement by the Inland Wetlands Commission. They wanted to, make sure that we weren't starving some areas of the wetlands, not collecting it on catch basins and pinpointing it to one area, which we agreed to do and actually we put in. I do not know why this is not loading. Let's try it one more time here. There we go. Right, so one of the questions was, okay, why do we have like this area discharge and why do we have some pipes that are direct discharging? That's so we don't starve this area of wetlands right here. We didn't want to take all the water with the curb line, put it in catch basins, have it come out here and then discharge to one point. So I know that was another question. But now that we have the drawing in front of you, this revision that you see here, a double the size of the detention pond plus the water quality area in here, that was per a requirement of the town engineer. We went from designing from a 10-year storm event to upgrading to a 100-year storm event and providing the correct water quality sizing in this area. So that's where that transpired. This transpired after the Planning and Zoning Commission approval.
This is another modification that didn't come to the Wetlands Commission.
That's correct. There was discussion whether it should go back to the Wetlands Commission and the Zoning Commission, but the basically discussion and the verdict was, well, there's really no additional construction happening in an area that's not proposed to be disturbed. This area is getting disturbed anyways. So that's why that was put in right there. And that's why I didn't come back to you, because this whole area was under disturbance anyways. And we actually were bettering the situation by moving the water quality basin closer to the outfall, which was here, and then providing a double the size detention basin in this area. Now, this proposed detention basin also was doubling the amount of size of the inland wetlands that we were taking away in this area, because this whole bottom and this whole detention basin, I believe, was seeded. And Dave, you could correct me wrong, because I do remember you, for lack of a better term, losing your mind at the cost of the seed that Mr. Snarsky had you plant in here. But the detention pond got double the size, the wetlands creation area got double the size, the water quality got double the size. Between Bob Cookton, John DeLora, and Dave Anderson, it was already approved through wetlands, already approved for zoning. It was just a no-brainer that, hey, why are we going to go back to all these commissions and create the round robin effect if this area was already previously disturbed? And I do remember having that conversation after reviewing it, because obviously this is the drawing that got submitted to build the site. So this is the one that went in for the building permit for building number 1 and building number 2. Because this is what was approved by the town, approved by engineering. So that's how this got built. So this is what's in there right now. Double the detention basin, a water quality area, and then the outlet is basically in the same. So this, where my cursor is the original detention pond. It got double the size for the 100-year storm event, and then the water quality got added. The driveway stayed the same here to access, to clean out this close to the road, so we're not driving in way back here. So that's where those changes came from, guys. It was basically based on what the town engineer was requiring us after the planning and zoning made it a condition of their approval to, to handle any questions by the engineer. And, it's been 10 years. I seem to think that Johnny and Iannacco approved it and had us do it, because I think, and I'm not 100%, I think Mike Ott was just leaving at that time, and Johnny and Iannacco might have been taken over, but I could be wrong. But it was definitely Johnny that looked at this and we designed it. So So
What's
that's
the
the
date on
question.
this? What's the date on this drawing, Mike?
This drawing was a permit drawing. I believe, I don't even know if my guys didn't change it, but I think they changed it on the cover. I think this is a permit set also. I don't think it changed from the planning and zoning one. I think, Aaron, did I have 10/25/18 for planning and zoning?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think it changed it, you know. Could have been one of my guys didn't add it to this one, but it probably added it to the cover. But that's, this is what was approved. So that answers the question about the detention basin. How, what, why? Let me just set this down. So, yeah,
So is there a drawing that shows all the changes on one drawing? I mean, like, building 4, the drawing we just looked at, building 4 now looks different than on that drawing, and you've done some additional surveying. So is that the as-built drawing that you're asking for, Aaron?
no,
So-
well, Aaron can speak on that. I'm sorry, Aaron.
Yeah, no, it was an as-built of existing conditions, what we were looking for to be able to accurately determine what has changed. We're receiving some drawings from, we received a survey from Anderson dated September 22, and then we received some information on Michael's engineered drawings based on additional surveying from Todd Anderson, but we have not received any new updated surveys or as-built from Todd, including the drainage. So if that's something that the agency wanted, then that's something that's missing. I don't have any record in the permits, in the permit file indicating staff revisions to plans. I wasn't here and none of the folks involved are here. So it's just a matter of, you know, if that's, if that truly was approved as field changes by staff or at the recommendation of the engineering department, I can't attest to that without, you know, going back and having further discussion with our town engineer, or, you know, or we take Mike's word for it as that's what
Never take
happened.
Mike's word for it.
You know,
So
you
I think it's
can
also important to note that,
excuse me?
yeah, can I just interject one? It's important to note that phase 1 and phase 2 of this project are complete. They've been completed for years. You know, phase 1 included that entire
You're breaking up, Dave.
detention area.
Yeah, Dave, we
They've
can't,
been fully inspected and approved by town staff.
We can't hear you. You're sorry, but you're breaking. We're hearing like every third word.
Okay,
I mean,
that's
we
what I
could
was trying
try
to get to the landline. Can you hear me better now?
That was
Yeah.
better, Dave. Try it again.
that was better. I guess the
Okay.
real question from the agency, you know, for the agency is, do you want to formally incorporate these changes into a modification along with the proposed changes to buildings 3 and 4? What information would you like to see at this point? I feel like we have some history, but before we start talking in circles about, you know, approvals and not approvals, what do we need to move forward, I guess?
Well, it seems to me, given all the confusion that we've just heard, that we should have a set of plans that reflects all the changes, and all the existing conditions as of now on one set of plans, so we don't have to go back and figure out why. I don't know. It just seems like that, for the record, that would kind of get everything up to date and allow us to move forward. I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
Well, we certainly I mean, yes, I think everybody would like to move forward. But because there have been so many changes and some are not documented for whatever reason that it is, I mean, Lee's right. It would be, and I don't know, we need to see, what it was and what it is now. And it's unfortunate that there were blanks and lapses or whatever happened in the communication chain. But, now we're here, we have buildings built and we have buildings that need to be built and we have these differences. So however we do it, we need to have that all collated and clearly, explained. So I don't know if that means adding in some explanatory notes for what happened, not what happened, but just some of the changes. I think what we need to understand is how do we go from those plans from 2017 or 15 when this started to where we are today?
Well, would it be possible for, we've just heard a pretty good history, and I think our minutes will reflect a lot of the history, but it seems to me that maybe a simple letter from Mike that just lists and outlines the different changes between the original planned set and then then a new set of plans that reflects where we are now and what's going to go forward. I mean, that would be enough. That would be enough for me, but
Yeah, I think
I think in order to accurately do that, you're gonna need a survey.
That's exactly what I was going to say. For what you're asking for, the only way to get to that point is to do a full survey of the entire site, storm drainage, detention basin, yada, 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 which is about a 6 to 7 week process for the surveyor to do. It really has nothing to do with me. I just get the information for the surveyor, but I think that's what the commission is asking for. Would that be a correct statement, Aaron? I think there's trying to gather what I can go back and tell.
I think you do need a survey that shows existing conditions and the proposed changes, or I mean, the survey will be at least existing conditions. You can create a site development plan of proposed changes based off of the survey. And I know Anderson has quite a bit of the property already surveyed, so I'm not sure as far as, what's outstanding or what additional, surveying field work he actually needs to do. Perhaps it's inverts and the stormwater system. I know he has all the buildings done. There's some limits of pavement on the September 22 plan. So I guess that's a question really for Todd,
Right,
to determine what his time frame is for that.
Yeah, it's easy for me because I take the original.
I'd like to make here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yes.
Or Aaron, if you could, can you try to get my name on? I think I can figure out how to mute.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, did that work?
Did that work?
Much better.
Okay, all right, great.
So,
and it's
obviously a project, and a lot has happened.
Right, but a couple things. So, phase 1 and phase 2, which encompass, building 1 and building 2 in the entire detention area, they've all been approved, inspected, built for years. I mean, town staff has already gone over this. So I think we need to be able to rely on town staff's approval for those areas. That's my first comment regarding this, rather than having us spinning in circles and circles and circles. I know, it's a lot of information being thrown at you, but I don't see how we can get approval for those areas and then have to go back and question town staff's approval. Building 4, like I mentioned in my opening statement, I had verbal and written approval from town staff for that too. And we need to be able to rely on what town staff says.
I-
You know, we can't get, you know, have town staff tell us something and us rely on it and build it that way, and then after the fact, somebody say, no, you shouldn't have done it that way. I mean, as a property owner, you know, you're all property owners in town too, I'm sure. You know, I don't see how that can be the way the system works. So, you know, regardless of the timeline and how this was all, you know, gone about over the years, there's certain things that I think should be set in stone at this point, because again, we have to be able to rely on town staff's approvals.
Dave, you have provided zero evidence of zoning or wetlands approval for building 4. There's no written authorization from either department. So that's an inaccurate statement. And I think we understand clearly that there was some level of miscommunication in this process to get you to the building permit phase. But it's not accurate to say that we have written verification that staff has approved that. That's why we're here today, you're seeking a modification from the agency for these revisions.
Okay, but just to reiterate something from my opening statement, you know, I asked John, quote unquote, were you able to process this so that we can move ahead with the building permit? And his response was, quote, yes, just submit the building permit and I will review as the PCCC. His response was not, no, you need Wetlands Commission approval for this. His response was, yes. I mean, if any other property owner goes to town staff with a question and they say, yes, you can proceed, you're going to proceed. And we're a property owner just like everybody else. So I don't see how you can fault us for, you know, listening to what town staff says and going forward from there.
Well, I guess, well, I don't, Aaron, I mean, we at the agency haven't seen any of this. And I guess this has all come to light again, and this has been stated because when you went for the final permit, it was flagged that it hadn't, you know, that there were issues, that things had changed that weren't documented. So I don't know in the emailing part of whatever you had with John DeLaura, but that clearly didn't get filed, didn't get put anywhere, wasn't okayed in an official capacity. And I completely understand how frustrating that is because, you know, if you have this email correspondence and, you know, you think that he has said that's okay, then I get that. And it's very unfortunate. I don't think we're asking you to substantially change things that have already been built, but we are trying to do the best we can to move forward and make sure that moving forward, everything is clearly documented on what is there now. And then when you want to make the changes to, I'm going to forget the building 3 or whatever the proposed modifications are for building 3, you know, that we're all on the same page and that this is, you know, it's clear, it's been approved, everybody is on board, and there aren't, you know, just emails out there kind of justifying what happened, regardless of how frustrating that is and that, you know, it happened. We're just trying to also help kind of move this forward and get it officially okayed so you can get your official permit. And it sounds like where we're at is that, you know, an updated survey, and it sounds like a lot of the surveying has been done, could get us there. You know, we just need to document, you know, what's there so we know what's there, and then we can understand and approve or discuss the proposed modifications for the building that is not yet built.
Okay, so what phase are we talking about? Are you looking for a survey to see what was done in the approved, you know, CO issued areas also?
well, Aaron, you can speak to this. I mean, clearly we need to understand the change for building 4, right? And, it looks like that has now been put out there. But go ahead, Aaron, you probably have more detailed.
Right. So there is a partial as-built that shows building 4, but we need an as-built of the site that shows stormwater drainage and the buildings and the paving areas. And so that will show where your stormwater system is installed, that it's in compliance with, at a minimum, this October 25th, 2018 plan, which, and then making sure that the site improvements to this area as far as impervious, so that the drainage system works based on changes to this new building. So having that as built with the impervious surface area will allow Michael to do those updated storm drain calculations and show the proposed building modifications. And that will have a document that shows what's happened in these 3 phases so far, and what is clearly proposed for the last phase. And as you indicated, Kayla, that everybody is on the same page, understanding what has been built out there, because it hasn't been accurately documented through the years, as far as through an as-built.
Plus,
So
I think
can
Mike
we,
said there were roof leaders leading to a wetland so as not to starve it. And I'm gonna guess those roof leaders aren't shown anywhere on a plan. So at some point, I think DEEP gets a report as to what's happening here, and I'm sure knowing where water's outletting to wetlands is important. So that's just another example of what should be shown on a plan that wasn't shown on 2018.
Mike, am I wrong, or weren't those roof leaders shown on the 2018 plan going directly from the storage building to the wetlands?
Yeah, we show them on our plan. They're entitled RL, and they come from the building. And sometime the catch basins then get dropped directly into the wetlands. But all the RLs on our plan sets show the roof leaders going in there. So everything's documented. And the reason for that, Joe, is that they have a specific offset distance to the underground septic systems that we have to adhere to. And if we don't, then they have to be called out as a certain pipe. So
I thought that was a recent change. So my bad
No,
on
sir.
that. But I have a question for Aaron, since I don't have the wetland regs in front of me, and usually a wetland permit is for 2 years unless it goes to another commission afterward, then it's 5. And I think we're coming up on 5 years. Should they request an extension?
Based on the time period that this project was approved, and the changes to the statutory language, it's likely that it is valid for a guaranteed 14 years with an additional discretionary 5 years for no more than 19 years, believe it or not.
A lot of years.
I
Automatic.
think it does fall under that. There was in 2018, or excuse me, in 2008, with the recession, there were changes, I think in 2011, extending the statutory time period for site plan or wetland approvals. And then again in 2021, because of COVID, there were further extensions. So I don't believe it has expired, although I don't believe there were any formal requests from the commission for extensions. But it is protected at least up until the total of 14 years. The last 5 are discretionary by the commission. So I think at this point, I think, NK, just to kind of in the effort of moving along for other applicants, we have feedback from you and Lee and Joe, but just to get a consensus from all members of the agency, is this the direction that you're looking, is for an as-built of existing conditions, and then what the proposed changes are?
Yes.
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 Yes, especially with a plan that shows existing grade instead of the old topography.
So one thing, just so we can provide you what you'd like. So Aaron, prior to last meeting, Todd Anderson sent you a survey. I don't know if you have that, Mike, handy, which shows an as-built for the entire site. Possible to bring that up?
There's a
so the
September
commission members can-
2022 as built. It doesn't have the storm drainage on it. That's the one I was referring to. That's in the shared documents and on the website attached to the agenda. This is additional information that the agency is looking for from your surveyor regarding
not-
stormwater and
Yeah, I don't think the
grading.
date is correct on there. That was a survey that he did just prior to the last meeting, I believe. So that's the most updated survey, and it'd be nice if we could pop that on the screen briefly, just so we can see what the commission would like, because we're kind of going in circles here.
Aaron, do you have that
I
on
wanna
there?
come to the next
Excuse
meeting
me, it
and
was
not
revised
have-
to February 28th. So that plan, as the commission has seen at the last meeting, does not indicate, it does not have storm drainage on it. I will share this here. This is the plan that you're referring to from Anderson. It shows some limits of paving. It shows an as-built. It does not show any storm drainage system, any connections here. So this is the as-built. And so as I indicated, a lot of the work has been done, but it's not a complete as-built of the storm drain system. And that's what he can go back and update and make sure that all of the impervious area is documented there. If this edge of pavement is the edge of the retaining walls that you had, there was supposed to be wetland, the original proposed drawing showed additional level spreaders or permanent filling of wetlands. So some of those areas can be, they're not clearly marked. I don't know if the wetland line was updated or not to reflect that. So that's what Todd would need to update.
Okay, is that it? Because again, I don't want to come back next time and the commission like to see something additional.
Yes, and the commission would like some spot elevations, it sounds, of what grades are out there, as Commissioner Boudreau mentioned.
Yeah, you're gonna, in the minutes or in a letter, Aaron, you'll put it out specifically so we can pass that on to the surveyor.
Sure.
Correct. What you're looking for. Reason being is if it comes from you in a document that's bullet pointed, then we can give it to him and he knows the exact punch list to go out there and do. And then he can kick it back to me and then I can check all these things. What is physically was designed. I can lay the proposed versus what's there over the top and look at all the differences, calculate the impervious, and then I can basically be able to tell you if there's any, any things that really stick out.
Right. It's predominantly grading and storm drainage.
Okay.
That's missing.
And everyone knows, not that I'm recommending it, but you can always go back and watch these in your spare time if you want to see exactly what went on. I have personally never done it.
I have.
I haven't, but I know it can be done if we need to double check things.
That's right. Okay. Are we all on the same page?
Yeah. So are we good? Yes.
I am.
Okay. All right. Well, then we will hopefully see you in June.
Yeah. Honestly, it all depends on the surveyor's
Right.
time.
I just remembered. Yeah. So we will see you when it's ready.
Exactly. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks,
you.
Mike. Thanks,
you.
Dave.
Take care. Have a great day.
Thanks.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next agenda item is 23-17, 144 Neck Road. This is for a house, demolishing a single-family home and constructing a 4-bedroom single-family home with septic, code compliant septic, swimming pool, and retaining wall, and associated site improvements within the 100-foot review area. This is also one of the site walks we did last month. And we have, it looks like we have the applicant and the applicant's.
Bless you.
Hi, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
I'm trying to get the video on. Start video. Okay.
How
All right.
about that? Good evening. My name is Rob Sonicson. I'm a registered professional engineer with Waldo and Associates. We're at 89 State Street, Guilford, Connecticut, and we're here representing the applicant for a project at 144 Neck Road, which is going to include demolition of an existing house, construction of a 4-bedroom house with a health code compliant septic system, construction of a swimming pool on the north side of the house with a 4-foot high retaining wall on the north side of the pool, and associated site improvements within the 100-foot upland review area. I think most of you were at the walk, if not all of you. What I'd like to do is to either have Aaron share the site plan that we submitted today, or we can do the share the screen up from our end.
Yeah, you've got somebody working it.
Well, yeah, I don't have to use my hands. It's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is that Dirk in the background?
Yeah.
Hi, Erin.
That's Dirk.
Hi, Dirk. It's been a while.
Hi.
Now, I could quickly go through the history. I think you all are aware of it, but there was a violation on the site for some tree cutting on January 17th. The mitigation plan was submitted on the 3rd of March, and the Inland Wetlands Agency considered it on March 6th and approved it with conditions. After that, we submitted our inland wetlands application for the demolition of the house and the construction of the 4-bedroom house and the associated site work on March 28th. And our application was scheduled for a walk on the 15th of April. And at the site walk, a request was made to add the mitigation plantings from the mitigation plan that was approved on the 6th onto our site plan, because we were handling it sort of as two separate issues. One was the corrective action, the mitigation plan, and then one was the site work. But now we have everything all on one site plan, including the septic system, the house, the modifications, and the plantings. As we went over at the site walk, but just for the record, the existing house that's on the site encroaches into the front yard setback for Neck Road by about 12 feet. There's a 30-foot setback from Neck Road. There's 15 feet from the edge of pavement to where the property line is, and then there's another 30-foot setback. So that it really turns into a 45-foot front yard setback. And the existing house was not compliant with that setback line, which is shown, the setback line is shown in black on the bottom of the page. The house, the house that's going to be demolished, the demolition house includes the black outline, and there is an existing garage over on the eastern portion of the property, which is going to remain in place. The 100-foot wetland setback is shown in orange, and it's very close to the building setback line. It's about 6 to 10 feet to the north of it. So essentially, all of the buildable area in the site is within the 100-foot upland review area. The proposed house is going to be moved back to be compliant and eliminate the nonconformance. The proposed 4-bedroom house will extend 25 feet to the west of the wall of the existing house. Sort of, you can see that's the roughly 25 feet. It's kind of got some angles, but and then on the other side, it's 35 feet to extend it over to the garage. The north wall of, and this was something that came up at the site walk, the north wall of the house is essentially running parallel to the back wall, the north wall of the garage. So the back wall of the house isn't any further to the north toward the wetlands than the garage, the current garage. The inland wetlands line is shown in green, and all of the plantings that are compliant with the corrective action plan approval are shown on the plan up in that area. Behind the house, on the north side of the house, is a deck which extends out with a walkway down to get to the garage, and steps down to a pool which is located on the north side of a patio from the walkout basement. The basement floor is going to be 14 feet. The first floor of the proposed house is going to be 24 feet. The existing floor, first floor of the current house is 14. And what we found was that is really the elevation that the new house needs to be because of the grades of the front yard and the amount of modification and grading that would need to be done. It really makes sense to keep it at 24. So that's what the proposed plan includes. It's going to have a full basement, as I indicated. There'll be a walkout patio at the same level as the proposed pool, which is 14 feet and AVD. There'll be walkout doors to get to the patio, to get to the pool. The dimensions of the pool are 32 feet long by 16 feet wide. There's a 5-foot wide patio walkway around the pool, which we consider to be the minimum that is really a safe width for being able to get around the back, completely around the pool. There will be a 4-foot high concrete wall on the north side of the pool. We put that wall in there so that we can minimize the grading on the north side and keep the closest encroachment to the wetlands at 23 feet from the backside of the site grading. The proposed septic system is located off to the west of the house. We're using GST, which is a geomatrix proprietary system. It is going to be, as an aside, we received today approval from the Madison Health Department for our system design. It's going to include a septic tank that's more than 25 feet from the building because we are putting a footing drain around the perimeter of the basement. We're going to be doing additional excavation for a full height basement. And when we do that, we include a footing drain as a factor to add an extra factor of safety because we're going to be above groundwater. We didn't hit groundwater in any of our test pits, but just to be on the safe side, we're going to put a footing drain, which will discharge off to the west of the proposed pool location, down at a location that's about 23 feet from the wetland boundary. The plan also calls for grading, site grading in a couple of places. There's some site grading off to the north of the septic system. The GST septic system is 63 feet from the nearest wetland location. And the grading that we put in, because there's a requirement in the health code that you have 10 feet clear before you start an embankment downslope. And we needed to do a very minor amount of grading in the area off to the north of the GST system in order to comply completely with that health code requirement. So the other area of grading is off on the east side of the site, and we're actually going to be lowering the area up close to the house to be able to make it sort of consistent with the walkout basement elevation. So it'll be a kind of a flat area off to the side, and then it will gently slope down to the north and tie in with the existing grades. And that's the summary. One other thing that we show on this plan is there are 5 trees located. 4 of them are along sort of the eastern property boundary, which we feel may be subject to some grading, and they may need to be removed to be able to successfully complete the grading on the eastern property boundary. And then there's one located over on the western property boundary that could potentially be impacted by the grading associated with the septic system, but we're showing them as being potentially being removed. They are trees within the upland review area. And that's my presentation. I think Bob Russo should be with us tonight.
I am.
And I wanted to turn it over to Bob, unless the commission wanted to ask me questions now. We can either do my questions now, but I think that it would be good if we could go to Bob and have him talk to you about his observations regarding the wetlands on the site, as well as his opinion with regard to the potential impacts of the regulated activities. Stop the share. We'll leave it on. Do you want to have the site plan up, Bob, when you're talking to it?
That would be great. Please do keep the site plan up. I'm going to jump into it unless commissioners have questions for Rob. Good evening. My name's Bob Russo. I'm a certified soil scientist with CLA Engineers in Norwich, Connecticut. I delineated the inland wetlands on the site and was out on the site walk with several commissioners last weekend. And I'd just like to set the context a little bit. I know most of the site most of the commissioners were on the site walk, but I just made reference to inland wetlands. And I do want to be clear that these are inland wetlands on this site. Off to the left, to the west, this wetland is contiguous with tidal wetlands eventually, but the elevations are such that we are in an inland wetland situation here. And I'd also note that the vegetation, which is how tidal wetlands are defined in Connecticut, the vegetation is largely, it is in fact inland wetland vegetation. It does not contain things like Spartina alterniflora or Spartina patens that would indicate that it's tidal wetland. To go a little further with the site setting, this is a developed residential neighborhood. It's an R3 zone. I looked at the sizes of several of the lots on the town's GIS. They're typically around an acre in size. The lots to the left, to the right, and to the north on the opposite side of the wetland. They're developed residentially. And looking at it, you can see that the wetland is really in a suburban context. There isn't undeveloped buffer. And in fact, the lots that are on either side of the one that's under consideration tonight and on the opposite side of the wetland are really quite similar in nature. There are houses, driveways, lawns, ancillary structures and things, so that the wetland really does lack any contiguous buffer or contiguous undeveloped upland review zone. The soils on the site, and if you look towards the north above the green line that's outlined, in the central area of the wetland, they're quite mucky. They are inland wetland soils. They're the Catton and Freetown series, right along the edge of the line, but still within the wetland. They're a Walpole, which is a soil that has a mucky A horizon, but has sand and gravel right beneath it. And then as you move upland towards where the existing house is and where the proposed house will be, you come up into a glacial outwash deposit, sand and gravel. It's a Hinkley soil. It's quite coarse in texture. And my investigations out on the site with a hand auger revealed that, and it matches very well with what's in the soil survey. The vegetation on the site from the wetland line out to the road, southward to the road, really reflects that this has been used for quite a long time as a residence. A yard, some trees, and that's much the same on the neighboring lots as well. The vegetation in the wetland, well, just north of that green wetland line, there are some shrubs like silky dogwood, some red maple saplings, some skunk cabbage in the understory, some cinnamon fern, some fairly typical wetland vegetation. But as you move out to the north, you encounter a pretty solid area of common reed, of Phragmites that's out there. And once you get out to it, it's very much a monoculture, growing to the exclusion of other wetland plants. So the wetland itself has a pretty significant population of an invasive species, and it's got some development that really surrounds it. Of course, it still has several of the typical functions that we assign to wetlands. The more important functions here are things like processing pollutants in stormwater runoff. This wetland receives runoff from the surrounding yards and surrounding roads, and having soil that's rich in organic matter means that it can collect and process those toxicants and nutrients, and that the vegetation will take them up, which is a good thing because it's protecting Long Island Sound. It serves on a local basis as wildlife habitat. There's not anything like a migration corridor here or a really significant block of inland wetland habitat here. But for the local wildlife species that will move along the edges of backyards, this wetland certainly provides habitat. Also, it's protecting our shoreline. Having significant vegetation along a shoreline is an important function that helps control erosion, helps control flooding. So the wetland does serve some important functions. In reviewing the plan that you see before you, you can see that the work that's proposed is really taking place in an area that has already and long been used as a residential site, as a home site, with a house, a garage, a yard, and so forth. And that's largely the way it will continue. So the upland use around this wetland is going to continue to be very much what it has been in the past and very much what is happening in the neighborhood. There are no direct wetland impacts proposed here. No fill of wetland is proposed. The soils here are quite permeable. Things like stormwater runoff should be able to infiltrate the soils very readily. And looking at that, then it suggests to me that what we need to guard against, most importantly, is impacts due to construction, when there's excavation going on, when there's grading going on. And you'll see that Rob Sonicson has shown erosion and sedimentation control measures that are proposed for when the garage is being constructed, when the house is being constructed, and when the septic system, the new septic system is being constructed. There's also existing silt fence that's shown out there. I've looked at that silt fence a couple times. It's functioning well. There isn't any evidence of erosion happening out there that's not, and we don't see evidence of sediments entering the wetland beyond the other side of the silt fence. So I think that if the ENS measures are properly installed and properly maintained, we shouldn't see sedimentation entering the wetland. I think that if it's built according to the plan with the appropriate measures, we really shouldn't see any long-term impact or depreciation of the functions of the wetland that exists today. And I'm going to stop there and just be open to questions from the commission, and I'm sure Rob is ready to do the same. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right, so we have we've heard from a couple of the applicants. Well, I guess, you know, 2 of the participants on this application, and we've had our site walk. So do commission members have any additional questions for?
I'm having trouble visualizing the swimming pool, especially from the north side. Rob, can you go through how that's going to be, what that's going to look like and how it's constructed?
The pool's going to be an in-ground pool. The grade out there, when we were standing at the site walk, we were standing at grades that are slightly higher than what, right where the cursor is right now. The grades out there are about 1.5 feet higher than the level of the pool and the patio. Then the site slopes down to elevation 10 toward the back of the existing grade is around 10 toward the back, 10 down to 8. That area is going to be along the side, the soil will be graded up to it so that there will be a slight reveal of the wall of the pool above the grading, which will grade down toward the north on both sides. And then on the north side, there's going to be a 4-foot concrete wall, which will reveal a vertical wall on the north side. And then there'll be.
What's that wall going to be? Is that wall going to be a concrete wall, or what's
concrete wall? It'll be the concrete wall to support the pool. It'll be really part of the pool structure out there.
Okay.
It'll be, and then at the base, there's going to be some minor grading to tie into existing grade near the toe at where it shows 8. That's the location that we're about 23 feet from the wetland with the limit of grading for the pool. So it's going to be set into the ground. It's not going to be sticking up significantly. It's going to have I'm sure the building code will require a fence around the perimeter of the patio, probably not on the house side, but on three sides. And it'll be a flat walkway 5 feet wide that you can walk around the outside of the pool. It's going to fit in to the site pretty effectively, particularly because we're going to be grading down at the house side, and then the only place that the pool is going to extend above the existing grade is out toward the northern side. I don't know if that clarified it as much as you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So
Other
I'm gonna
questions?
ask-
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask something related to alternatives. And obviously, a lot of the property in the back was clear cut. And then it was said tonight that there's more trees there possibly coming down, which I think is a way to pretty much tell us they're gonna come down. And I see the house footprint proposed is about 3 times the size of the existing house, and it's, I believe, a 2-story house. And I just want to ask, was there ever a consideration of a smaller house with the pool to the east?
The house is designed as a 1-floor house. All 4 bedrooms are on a single floor. There's no living space up above. And the reason for that is that it's going to be essentially a retirement home for Pat Boutilier's parents. And as a result, they really wanted 1-floor living. And they also have, the family, and they wanted to have a master bedroom and 3 bedrooms on the first floor. And there's also a great room on that floor, and there is a kitchen and a sunroom, but there's no, and there's an additional garage space down in the lower right-hand corner. So if you take a look at the floor plan, which I don't have a copy of the floor plan to share, the lower right-hand corner, nearly up into where the stairs are shown.
But I do, if you would like to see a floor plan.
If you want to see a floor plan, can you put one up, Pat?
Yes, give me about 30 seconds. You talk and I'll say when I'm ready.
Okay, so anyway, what you're going to see is, and I was looking at it today.
Should I stop the share?
What?
Should I
No. I was looking at the layout today, and it is not it's larger than the existing cottage that's there. There's no question about it, but it's not.
I'm ready.
Okay, we're going to stop our share, and Pat will show you the site, the floor plan, I think.
Yep, coming right now. So the house is a ranch. It looks more than what it is, but it's just a ranch that looks like a cape is all it simply is. And when you're trying to fit, a 4-bedroom ranch, it takes up, a significant footprint than what the original house was. And that is your layout of the home.
So you can see the garage space takes up, the additional garage space takes up a fairly good piece of the floor plan. And the rest of the house is in scale. It's not the bedrooms aren't enormous. And I think one of the reasons that it really looks like it is a much bigger floor plan, but it's not an unreasonably large floor plan for this area, and if looking at the number of square feet that are in most of the houses, and the one floor living does spread it out quite a bit.
Just for a retirement home, 4 bedrooms seems like a lot. So it is expansive, especially with the swimming pool being proposed near the wetlands.
Joe, I have a very large family. Despite my last name, I have Italian roots. And when my mom has Christmas, there are a lot of people that come for those events. And, she wanted to make sure all of her grandkids and all of the, family members could be at her home, that, she is going to be living at for the rest of her life. So that was, her and my father were talking about this. That was one of their things that they wanted to make sure they had. So that's the reason why it is. And it just, again, when you're trying to make ADA compliant rooms, you're trying to make ADA compliant hallways and all these things of how this is actually being designed so that, and just so you're aware, my father is 80 years old. So that this is things, and, this is why this is in the manner it is. And we are also trying to stick with the, in design of sticking with the design of the area too, and not make this, a tower with elevators and all these other things. They didn't want any of that. So, this fit within the footprint. It didn't go past the existing back of the house where the garage was. And so then in turn, we had to make it long.
Okay. Well,
I
go ahead.
have a question with respect to the increased coverage. Are you proposing any stormwater infiltration? Have you
Yeah,
looked at that, Rob, as far as an increase in impervious surface coverage or any possibilities for infiltrators or something of that nature?
Yeah, why don't we go back to our site plan again, if we can. Won't we're just buzzing around with the high tech screen.
Are you not, the circular driveway that takes up quite a bit of room in the front, that's being removed?
Yes. And I didn't mention that, but there's that driveway is not considered to be a feature that will, and you can see, one thing I didn't mention is that the soil stockpile is going to be located up in that, it's southwest corner of the property. And the driveway, it does show clearly, I think on the site plan, it says to be removed on that. I had the benefit, and Erin was good enough to send out this afternoon her comments and on the property. And we did mention and talk about, so it's not a surprise, stormwater management. And my response to that is we will be able to respond to that. I'm expecting that we'll use some kind of rooftop infiltration around the perimeter of the house. But I don't have the details of the roof and geometry, so I can't tell you we're going to put 25 feet in this corner and 30 feet over here. One place that we're going to have to be careful about infiltration in the vicinity of the house is on the west side, because we do have there's a 25-foot separating distance between the septic system and the footing drain, and there's also a 25-foot separating distance between any stormwater infiltration and the septic system. So those are a couple of things that we're going to have to deal with, but I'm confident that we'll be able to address the basic stormwater first entry runoff from the increased impervious area on the site. I'd like to modify the plans if we could. Aaron's suggestion I thought was a good one. I've got to work out the details, but I think that it'll be fairly straightforward. And hopefully that can be a condition that would be reviewed and approved by town staff.
And then I guess since we're talking about staff comments, we had, when we were out on site, noticed the location of the existing silt fence, which is my understanding is sort of the limits of disturbance of construction activities, aside from the restoration plantings that you have shown. And tonight you mentioned possibly the removal of that 20-inch white oak. That's beyond the silt fence now. I guess one of my questions would be what is the need to remove that? And if this silt fence is serving as your limit of lawn, and you have this buffer planting area, is there a way to physically demarc that upland maintained lawn from the natural buffer area on the property?
We've been looking at that. There are a couple of answers to those questions. Are one of the problems with the tree there is I was out there today. It doesn't have any leaves coming out whatsoever. I think that it's actually this is its last season if it has any foliage at all. I've had a number of white oaks that have perished in my yard. They were attacked by gypsy moths, and after 2 seasons, they just, and the white oaks are leafing out now everywhere else in town. So I'm very worried that tree is not going to be with us for this growing season. The next part of the we changed the layout of the plantings on just a little bit on the mitigation plan, and essentially created a row of plantings. There were a couple of ideas, signs, boulders, or plantings, and I recommend, and I think that Bob would recommend, having talked with him about it, doing a row of plantings that would demarcate a buffer area, and that buffer area is shown at something between 20 and 25 feet from the wetland, and the sort of undisturbed, naturalized buffer areas that we've been dealing with for a significant amount of time. That kind of distance does a very effective job of protecting the wetland edge. And I thought that would be the sort of and I don't think you need a lot of slope in the buffer area. This is kind of in the flatland down below that would essentially be naturalized back, and then the lawn would start up the slope and up to the top of the yard. So that's the recommendation that I'd have. We could modify it, enhance it a little bit, but there's a clear row of plantings along there, and from that point, the silt fence is really what I would call the buffer area along for the rest of the site.
I don't know if it's me. I'm just not following that 100%, Rob. The shrubs, and maybe you can just kind of run your cursor. You're not talking about the shrubs right along the wetland line as the the buffer area. But you're talking more along the silt fence line as being the limit
Much
of
closer
buffer?
to silt fence. Yeah, I'm sorry, Aaron, to interrupt. I don't want to.
Okay.
The west, as you move further to the east, let's start at the western property boundary. The area that I called down a little bit, that plant right there is about 20 plus feet off the wetland. And then moving across to the east, there's a row of plantings that would separate up farther, the plantings. And then the last one you hit is the one that's right at the sort of the corner of the pool. And continuing on from there, that's the silt fence line. I didn't move any of the proposed plantings back, but there could be. One thing I want to go back to about the planting plan that I want to really stress is that the wetland scientist is actually going to be doing the specific location of the plants. All we did was put an example of where they might end up being on here, and the numbers are the numbers that were in the corrective action plan that was approved. So I think that some of the plants we don't want to certainly plant them too close together, and additional buffering plants can be planted right along the silt fence to form kind of a continuous buffer all the way over to the eastern property boundary, essentially.
So you're essentially saying that you've taken the restoration planting and kind of spread it out a little more to make this buffer, but you could fill in. And it looks like it's viburnum and witch hazel. Is that right?
Yeah. And high bush blueberry. They're all wetland, a variety of wetland plants, and those also can be selected by the wetland scientist if you wanted to have a specific kind of shrub in an area or cluster them. That can be done. We just scattered them on the plan. So,
right. And that's not really I mean, it's kind of a buffer, but and we have done this in other applications. We really like to delineate that and so taking these restoration plants and kind of spreading them out is one thing, but I think it would, what you've described isn't, looking at the spatial, and I get that this is probably not exactly, I mean, it isn't final, right? But, if you're going to do it with plantings, it needs to be very, very clear that that's a demarcation and not just some decorative plants kind of scattered about. Because the whole point, right, is to have that buffer, to have it no-mow, to have it be restored to this, vegetated buffer that's protecting, in addition, is protecting the wetland. So are some of these, well, it doesn't matter. I can ask later. Are there other comments?
Well, I agree with you, Kayla. I think we need more detail so it's clear where the lawn, what's going to make up the buffer, and so we have a clear idea where the limit of the lawn is going to be. Because for me, it's hard to tell here whether or not the lawn continues under
Right.
some of those trees on the west, on the to the left. I forget. I guess that's west side. It looks like there's plenty of space in there for lawn to exist.
Yeah.
So I think the plan needs to repeat myself. I guess I think the plan needs to be clear on what the buffer plantings are and what the limit of the lawn is going to be.
And that's actually why we often suggest split rail fence or some kind of marker demarcation so that there isn't any question that, no, the lawn can't creep in here or there. It's, this is the buffer.
Yeah, I always think that the signage to the benefit, I mean, if you're giving a conservation easement, maybe then you need to identify it that way, but on a private individual's lawn, I mean, if you require that area as shown on the plan is left undisturbed and not be actively mowed and landscape lawn. I don't think that a property owner needs to have a bunch of signs in his backyard telling him that that's where the buffer is. I mean, it's a condition of approval, and it's his responsibility not to extend the lawn beyond that location.
Okay.
Well, on this plan though, Rob, how would he know what the location is?
Right. It's not clear at all.
I would say at elevation 8.
Yeah, well, that's where it runs. It runs along the 8 contour, but we could show the plantings with dimensions on the plan that would be very easy for anyone to know that they're not supposed to be, planting grass and mowing beyond that row of plantings. And that's the kind of, I think that's the most natural and the most sensitive type of demarcation. I mean, boulders, I mean, I don't, it's my personal opinion, but a row of boulders in somebody's backyard, it makes it look like Stonehenge or something. I just think that a clear demarcation using shrub plantings is absolutely the best way to go. And it won't, it's not like they won't know where it is because it's in the conditions of approval of their wetlands permit, and they can measure it from where those plants are, and it's going to be clear where the wetlands boundary is. So I think that we can modify the plan to make it more clear for you where this buffer is going to be and where the limit of lawn is going to be.
So I think, and if the agency is comfortable with that and locating, whether it's along a specific contour line that's going to be designated as this limit, and that's where you're proposing plantings to kind of delineate that in the field, is that elevation 8 is, I guess it's sort of splitting the difference in some of these areas where you're getting a little more beyond the silt fence on the west side and a little less on the east side. If that's what
Aaron, sorry, it's Patrick, not to cut you off, I apologize, but originally when that silt fence was done, when Anthony LaFata went out there to do it, he just didn't know exactly where it should be, and he just used his judgment, and that's why the silt fence is where it is. He did a good job, that it was pretty good according to Bob, right? Bob Russo.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was no actual process to it. It just, he was like, you need a silt fence up. Wherever he saw there was no disturbance or anything, he just stuck it in and he went and tried to stay as far away from the wetlands as possible. So that's basically why that fence is the way it is. It's just never moved since January 30th or whatever that was. So it's just been there since.
Well, so that makes sense. And I get that was a response to your order, or, that I sent, but now for this regulated activity, if you're, I guess your options are to go back and amend your plan to show a clear limit of disturbance, whether it's this existing silt fence location or a new location, or identify clearly here, based off of this map, where this delineation will be in condition and approval. One pushes us back a month, and the other kind of demarks that here during the meeting.
If
So
I could
guess
make
that's,
whoops.
yeah,
Sorry,
no,
Aaron,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
that's really, I'm looking to you as far as
Yeah.
which.
If I could make a
That's-
suggestion that I think incorporates some of what Rob and Pat and Aaron have said. Pat was mentioning that 8-foot contour, and we're talking about delineating the edge. Rob and I had talked with delineating it with vegetation, which is really a nice way to do it, I think. And what I would say is that the plants that I've picked that are going to be along the upper edge of the planting are things like witch hazel and arrowwood viburnum. And maybe we could specify that we're going to plant witch hazel and arrowwood viburnum along that 8-foot contour every 15 or 20 feet to demarcate the edge. So there would actually be a line of shrubs of a certain type that demarcate the edge of that area that's to be not occupied by lawn.
It just so happens, Bob, that the area off to the west that I tried to show the plants they're located just about 20 feet apart, starting at the edge and moving across to the silt fence line. So that would be kind of what, then extending them off along the 8-foot contour up to the property line.
Right.
Why 20 feet apart? That seems a bit far.
Yeah, to me too.
Well, here's the thing. When you first plant shrubs, and let me just take a typical example. When you first plant blueberry bushes, you look at them and say, oh, maybe I'll plant them 5 or 6 feet apart because they start out small. But if you've ever seen a witch hazel or an arrowwood viburnum grow, 5 years down the road, if you don't plant them 15 to 20 feet apart, they're going to be growing right on top of each other. And you actually want a little bit of space in between them. So you have to kind of look at landscaping with the idea of what does it look like 3, 5, 8 years down the road. And so typically you're more likely for a shrub, or witch hazel, if you know it, actually becomes a small tree to have enough space and enough sunlight when it grows. So I'm working within an interval there that I know that species is going to want to occupy as it grows up.
Well, obviously it depends on the shrub. I mean, high bush blueberry, 20 feet would be really far apart.
Exactly. But what I was talking about were witch hazel and arrowwood viburnum, which, would grow to a larger size than a high bush blueberry.
I agree with the spacing of the bushes. So I think I was the one that brought up the boulders or some of the granite that was on there to do a delineation. I mean, if you want to do a delineation, move some of that granite down there, delineate it, and then move the bushes around where the soil scientists would suggest that they go, rather than us picking where they should go, looking at a PDF. If you want to delineate it with something and then allow the bushes to go and break it up. I know granted, it's heck, I mean, how many New England properties have stone walls? I mean, to delineate everything.
Well, I think there's clearly thoughts about how to do the buffer. So as Aaron was trying to move us forward, and I guess the question of the white oak also it's a big white oak. It'd be good to get confirmation if it really is dying, diseased. And then we kind of dropped the discussion of the ones over here on the east side that you have highlighted that may be needed to take out. I guess, well, those are all within the wetland review area, right? And are going to, if they are taken out, will need to be reseeded and vegetated so as not to cause erosion. And you're just hypothesizing at this point, right, that you may need to take them out because of grading, or do you really think you will have to take them out?
Well, this is Rob Sonicson. I was out there today, and all of the 3 trees that are up on the east side between the property line and the it's mismarked as sumac. They're maple saplings, and they're all bent, and they're the 12-inch maple up at the top is very close to another tree that's immediately over the property line that's not shown up to the top by the garage door.
Oh, this way.
Yeah, that tree is grown into the tree next door, and it's bent, and it's got a lot of broken limbs, and it's also going to be right next to some modifications to the grading. And when you do grading around the base of a tree, it oftentimes it doesn't take very much to make it so that it doesn't survive. So those trees I saw as really being not a positive part of the landscape for the site.
Well, that's interesting wording. So they're in the way and may be damaged, I think is what you're saying. Certainly they serve other functions on the landscape. So is it the maple, is it those 3 then that you're proposing to take out essentially?
And as well as a 4-inch twin maple a little bit farther down.
Because of why? That one?
Well, that one's that one may be able to be saved, but there's going to be we're tying the grading back in down there, and I was concerned that would be not able to be avoided.
Okay, so it looks like where we're at. Well, are there other questions from commission members that we haven't covered yet, outside of some of the grading, some of the trees, and the demarcation of kind of the wetland vegetated buffer area? No. So, it sounds like we have not quite consensus between all of us on what we'd like to see for the buffer. There's a bunch of, several different ideas have been floated. Certainly, the witch hazel and Arrowwood viburnum would be great.
I'm going to make this real easy. How about we do this to make it simple? Why don't I put one of the granite boulders that's sitting next to the garage currently right now? I put it at the 8-feet marker, and then Bob does his plantings that he was speaking of, and there's a delineation of that. So, and I put 2 of those. I think I can find 2 of them on the property that I know of that are up. I can't use my mouse there. So up by the garage existing, there's literally some granite thing there that I thought was delineation of a property line at one point in time, but it's not. And I can move that down. That's actually something large enough that, is not going to require major equipment to move it to get into that area, and put that at that 8-foot marker just behind the white oak tree there, and then have another one staggered someplace around where the silt fence cuts in, where you have the trifecta of red maple trees. And the silt fence comes in there, left, right there. And I can put another one here for that delineation of that to the wetlands. So it's basically following that straight contour kind of across. And then Bob can be the planting expert on the, sorry, Bob, I know it began with a T, but I can't remember it now. That would be planted. And then now there's a direct delineation of that area. Would that be satisfactory to the committee? Tom?
I think so. I mean, I brought up the boulders originally just to mark it. I mean, it's a solid marker. Plants can die after a few years. But yeah, I don't want to get into.
Yeah, to me, as long as we have something that clearly delineates and serves as a buffer, I'm okay with that. It doesn't matter.
My own Washington Monument.
But I think the plan, we need a set of plans that show it and possibly have a line that shows where the no-mow area is versus where the lawn is. So we kind of, everybody knows exactly what needs to happen where, is my suggestion.
And I guess my other question with respect to these plantings is, I know there were a set amount for the restoration. And I just wonder if there'll be a possibility, instead of spreading them out to include the buffer, if it's necessary to have a few more in order to have a nice buffer. Just throwing that out there.
I think it is. I think it will be, personally.
Yeah, I think you'll need more than what was, looking at the numbers of the plants, that was for one purpose, and trying to spread them out for to include two purposes. I think you'll probably need a few more than what was originally outlined for the rest of
We
it.
weren't adding boulders either.
So 2 boulders, right, is what we're
To
saying.
delineate.
Yeah.
So now we have boulders instead of plants.
Well, yeah, I think
And plants. And plants.
And plants and
yes,
plants.
yeah, it's
But
both.
we don't need more plants if we're delineating with
Well,
boulders, do we?
Right, but the applicant has just said maybe, which is actually what I was going to suggest, was a mix of boulder and plants.
Yeah,
And so I think
absolutely.
that sounds nice. So I think, if we can be flexible in our thinking with respect to the number of plants needed to make a proper buffer, despite the fact that we'll have 2 boulders there, that could be great. But to Lee's point, and I know we are getting late and we're not even done with our agenda, it's super sad. I think, I think we do need to, it sounds like, at least, and we can talk about this among the commission, that we might want to see some modifications with respect, on the plan, with respect to the buffer, and also with respect to the stormwater management. Is that right, Erin? I don't know where she went.
Those would be the 2 items. Yes. And so then is the commission would have to determine if that's something that you're comfortable conditioning and having that plan submitted accordingly to your agent prior to any site disturbance, or if that's something you would like to return to you.
Are you comfortable doing it, Aaron? Are you comfortable doing it?
What's that?
Are you comfortable doing it? If we ask you to do
Approving with
that?
conditions?
Well,
sure. I think we've had some level, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's stated specifically, that a witch hazel and arrowwood viburnum delineation, be planted every 15 to 20 feet along the 8-foot contour line to delineate the maintained lawn area from the buffer area, and that the applicant shall also include 2 granite markers, one on the east and one on the west side of the property along that contour line, and that be shown on a site development plan, you know, I mean, that's clear in a condition for staff to understand what I'm looking for,
Right.
you know, on the plan. And stormwater infiltration, I do, that is a recommendation, and I agree that that does have to reflect where the water, you know, the roof lines are proposed, and where those infiltrators will go. I don't know that that's something that the agency wants to see again, or not. It's really whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, well, I think I would be comfortable having that, having those on the plans, but us not having to see them again. Both of those, though, definitely, as you described very nicely, the buffer, and obviously once the roof is sorted out, you know, having that on the plan as well, whatever the infiltration is going to be.
I'm comfortable with that as long as Aaron also has the authority to ask the applicant to add plantings if once they get it done, it doesn't look like it's going to serve sufficiently as a buffer.
Yeah, well, I think if it's, you know, the phrasing was nicely done for Aaron. If we're planting, well, yes, I don't think we want to take away the arrowwood, viburnum, and the witch hazel from the rest of the restoration in order to create a buffer. I think we want it to
Supplement.
yes, yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be all of them, but I think, you know, I just glanced at the numbers, but I think we'll need a few more of those in order to make a proper buffer and to maintain what was asked for in the restoration plan.
I agree.
Okay, and then the trees, I guess it would be nice just to be kept apprised of the trees, especially, you know, if the 20-inch white oak, that's a nice big tree, if that really does need to come out, if it's dead. And the twin maple down at the far east, southeast, whatever it is. I understand about, you know, the grading and whatever on top, but it would be nice to be firm about that and at least to keep, you know, to keep an eye on that and recognize that some of those may need to come out in this document.
Okay.
Is there anything else? No, we all need an espresso break. I want to text one of my sons to go get me something. Okay,
Snack.
well,
So
snap. Come on, boys.
so is this up for approval with the conditions?
So my next sentence was going to be, I would be happy to entertain a motion. Aaron did draw up a draft resolution. I think I don't think everything is on it that we've discussed, but yes, I would love to entertain a motion that about this application and that does incorporate and can.
So I think, yeah, that number 3, the draft item number 3, could be replaced with what I had read earlier.
Yes.
About the plantings.
Yes. So, does anybody want to take a stab at a motion?
I'll make a motion that the board accepts the approval of 23-17 144 Neck Road, map 24, lot 1, with for the house approval with the following conditions as outlined. Stating that the Inland Wetlands Agency will be notified at least 48 hours prior to commencement of regulated activity. Number 2, at all times during site work until soils are stabilized, the applicant shall install and maintain erosion sediment control measures such as fabric filter, fence, staked by hay bales, and other measures deemed necessary by the agency's agent. Should I read all of it?
No, I think you can just
What do-
reference this, you know,
Yeah.
we're all looking at it. You can reference this.
And reference number 3, with a combination to delineate the on-site, the limit of the maintained lawn from the wetland buffer area, with a combination of boulders, fencing, shrubs, or similar equivalent, and that the applicant shall install adequate stormwater management for any increased impervious service from the lot or from the roof.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second it.
All right, so any discussion, clarification? Did we get everything? We can use the language referenced for the buffer. We have the stormwater. And I would just like to add, you know, to be kept apprised of, you know, the trees and the need to take them out if the ones that we've discussed this evening. That we captured everything. Is that okay? All right. All in favor of the motion as amended? Raise your hand. Say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. All right. Excellent. Well, thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
patience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, moving right along. Slowly. So
Very slowly.
10 of 10. But who's counting?
Okay, Michael's gonna be very thorough, but yet brief.
Okay.
In his
Yeah,
presentation.
Our next application is 23-19, 43 Madison Springs Drive. This is, we received this last month. This is for construction, removal of an existing deck and construction of a patio and stairs within 100 feet of an inland wetland.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I have like an hour or so presentation. You guys want to take a break or?
For a
no,
deck.
I will be as brief as I can I'll be as brief as I can. So for the record, I'm Mike Ott. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor with Summerhill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors, 60 Wall Street in Madison. This is, can I share my screen, Aaron?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This is, can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is the plan that you previously approved. This was, if you recall, the swimming pool and patio and septic tank and pump chamber in the backyard of the home at 43 Madison Springs Drive. The blue dash line is the 100-foot upland review area limit. So it pretty much encompasses the whole backyard, if you all remember. The owner, and let me know if you can see the switch in plans. Can you see that I switched plan sheets?
Yes.
Okay. So the owner, let me see if I can get these both at roughly the same scale. Okay. So again, this was the original approval. This gray shaded area was the approved patio. This dimension on the west side is 14 feet. And I'll show you why I'm telling you that. The owner has decided to reduce this 14-foot dimension to 8 feet. So it was reduced by 6 feet. The pool has not moved. The grading has not changed. The limit of the silt fence has not changed. See that word lawn right there?
Yeah.
I'm going to switch back to the approved plan. See the word lawn again? Yeah. So the silt fence is in the same location. If you look at that word lawn, you can tell it's kind of, in the same location as it was. So the only thing that did change is the owner decided to remove this existing deck and this existing patio here and replace all of it with a new patio, as well as realign a portion of this walk. So I'll flip to the new plan, and that's all the gray area. So it's added a total of 250 square feet of patio between the approved plan and the current proposed plan. Let me say that a different way. It's added an additional 250 square feet of impervious surface. In this plan, you've got a deck, a walkway, and a patio here, plus the proposed pool patio. In the current proposed plan, the deck goes away and becomes a patio. This existing patio gets redone, and this patio around the pool changes. And this walkway shifts slightly. So the difference is an additional 250 square feet. All the new work takes place between the pool and the house. So there's no new work proposed on the sides of the pool or below the pool, south of the pool. And again, the silt fence stayed where it was, and the grading did not change.
Mike, where you have it labeled deck, that's patio now proposed?
Yeah, that's
this plan?
I'll go back to the existing plan. You know, this is the approved plan. This is the existing deck.
Yes.
Existing patio, existing walk. Those labels have not changed. We're just taking all that out, and the gray represents all new patio.
So it is still patio. It's not going to be deck.
Gonna be.
Correct. The deck
It's replaced with patio.
the deck completely goes away. So that's really it in a nutshell. It adds 250 square feet of impervious surface. And again, all the new work that she's asking for approval now is between the pool, the northern edge of the pool, and the house.
And really, this is back before the agency because you issued the initial permit. And so this is a modification of that original permit, which is why I didn't do that on a staff level.
That's really it in a nutshell. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, except Aaron, can you pull up your memo for this one? Please.
So there were 3 existing conditions from the previous approval: notification prior to any work, ENS controls, and that the applicant submit a revised site development plan showing the pool equipment and utility lines, and fence location. And I think looking at that plan, Michael, you had the fence location on there, correct?
I did, as well as the utility lines and the.
Yeah, so that condition has been met. And I had no additional recommended conditions beyond the existing conditions.
Can you go back up to the top so I can see what the application number is? I moved.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I moved that.
23-19.
23-1943 Madison Springs Drive with the 3
Yes.
conditions as outlined in Aaron's memo to the agency.
Second.
Okay, got a second. Great. All right. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
I was jumping the gun.
Aye.
No. All right. Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience, Mike.
Thanks,
Yeah, I
Mike.
hope you all get to go home or sign off very soon.
At some point.
Soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so our next application is 23-11 Mungertown Road. It looks like, as Aaron had said in an email, there were some business issues.
Notification So although we posted the legal notices, the applicant didn't get the abutters notices out in time, according to our regulations. So they've granted an extension to the agency to table that public hearing to your June 5th meeting. And so we would just need a motion to table that.
I will make a motion to table application 23-11 until our June 5th meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? Great. Okay. Well, there we got a little faster. Okay, so hopefully you all had a chance to look at receipts. We have 3 applications for receipt, and just again to make a note, our decision tonight, oh, +4, we have Cops Road that came in.
Yes, thank you.
What we need to do tonight is determine if there's significant activity, or if we want to do a site walk, if we need a public hearing, any of those things that would require us to do something more than just discuss it at the next meeting. So if you look, we can talk about what we can just kind of make decisions as we go. The first application is 23-20, 730 Durham Road. The applicant here would like to, they essentially want to do lily pad removal, sounds like, and remove that from the pond in order to get their desired pond condition. I would suggest a site walk for that, since they're actually going to be working in the wetland and removing things.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay. Okay. So the next application is 23-33 Green Hill Road. Is within the public right of way. This is the town of Madison doing a water main crossing the Neck River within the 100-foot review area.
Yes, this is a crossing in the upland. It's not actually within the river or wetlands, but it is to, rather than suspending the water main from the existing bridge, it's an adjacent structure with a span to support the water main extension along Green Hill Road to service the new elementary school. So this was originally submitted as as part of the Mungertown school application, and at staff's recommendation, they pulled that out as a separate application process. So that would be a good one, although it's a little hairy to stand there on Green Hill Road. We could park at the school and walk, and so you can at least see the wetlands are flagged there, and you can take a quick look at that area.
Well, it's probably, I mean, well,
I mean, you could drive, but yeah, it's.
But we can decide what would people like to do on that one. I mean, we're going to do one already.
That looks like a classic drive-by.
Okay.
I'm cool. Yeah, I'm good with the drive-by also.
Okay. And then our third receipt is 23-35 Opening Hill Road. Now, this is a subdivision referral.
Yes.
So
I think we need to see that one.
yeah, that one. So I guess my question, yes, my question is, do we see it now? Yeah, no, I guess we do see it now because it is a subdivision referral. Yeah, I think that's
what were you thinking, Kate?
well, I mean, because regardless, with any of these, they have to come back when they build the house.
I see. Yeah.
We're gonna see it. We will see it again.
In an instance like this, it may be because there are easements proposed for access, where with shared driveways, it might be worth looking at now in case there's a recommendation from the agency to utilize.
No, I agree. It looks a little
like that.
complicated. But just to flag for us that on these referrals, it's a referral, and our input is there's significant, is there some kind of clear activity or something, right?
Right.
We have had a couple of subdivision referrals where we actually have, I think with Longshore, there's been a few where we've actually, during the referral process, have had a very detailed referral, and where sometimes we don't. But regardless, we probably will see it again once the
Right.
individual houses come. But I do agree. I think we should do that one. Joe, you have your hand up again. It's so very cute.
So I'm gonna be that guy because I remember that subdivision down on the shoreline that I looked in the subdivision regs and I looked in our wetland regs, and they have common language where the word referral I didn't even see at all. And the way I read the regulations is if there's a subdivision reg that goes to planning and zoning, there has to be an application that comes to us. And I was hoping maybe Aaron could just verify that over the next few days. But I just don't see referral as being a process. And it looks like even though the lots will come back, that the subdivision itself is an application to us.
It is, it's not for a regulated activity, it's for a report, essentially, from the agency to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And the report may very well state that any future lot developments within 100 feet require regulated activity permits. There is no such language. I think the language of referral, I believe, is on the application form itself, and that may have been something inherited. But typically, it's the agency provides a report to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Is how.
Okay, so I understand how an application may have language that you don't see in the regulations, but I know I've seen other towns with language where if a subdivision has wetlands on it, ergo, an application is made. So I won't belabor it. I just remembered there was that subdivision on the shoreline that had me scrambling to the regs, and I felt it was crystal clear, but
It has been a formal application made to you. It's not just a request for you to look at it. The applicant has submitted an application, but the application is called a referral. Believe it or not, the check box, when you look at the material, and I probably.
No, I think it's on there. It is, I think, yeah. So maybe that's it, Joe.
on the
Maybe it's just
agenda.
the cement, it's just
I
what
looked
that
at
is.
our, okay, I looked at our regular
me
meeting
show you.
apps. I didn't look at the receipts. I'll look at it tomorrow.
Here's the application, but it was a formal fee in an application. It actually talks, it says site plan special exception permit referral, because these application forms that we've inherited over the years don't specify. But it's not a regulated activity permit. It's not a permitted use as of right. Our language historically has been a referral, but it is a fee that has been paid to the wetlands, so it is a formal application, although it's
Okay,
not
that-
technically the right wording.
Okay, I think that satisfies what I just said then.
Okay.
That's
Good.
it then. It says it right there on the application.
Yeah, so formally you will take an action, and your action may be in the form of a report or comments, but that's typically what would happen.
Okay,
Understood. Thank you.
so
No,
far
good question.
we have, yeah. So far we'll do Durham Road and Opening Hill. So our fourth receipt is Cops Road.
53 Cops Road.
3 Cops Road. And that one came in late. So it seems like maybe we want to walk it. But I just glanced at it.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, let me see.
You have
This
that.
this is for
It's a demolition of a detached garage and a construction of a new detached garage in the rear yard. And it is within the upland review area.
and this is on Cops Road. This is near Cops where meets with Fort Path.
Is it within 50 feet or?
It's
like
across
beyond?
from the, I don't know off the top of my head. It's across from the condos
The center village, yeah.
there, yeah,
Yeah, so it looks
on the
like,
west side of Cops.
right, so it looks like so
So it's right at the end of Bradley Road.
yes,
Yep, just
Bradley
north.
Road- Bradley
Yeah.
Road goes into it.
yeah, well, just north of it a little.
No, I sold it to him.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
So the wetlands. Um, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess we could drive by because it's right on the road, it looks like. What do you think, Erin? Or would it be worthwhile
I don't think I
removing the
have that.
barn?
Let me look here on this. I can't screen share it with,
What's the address?
I can pull it up.
It says the
It's
majority of
53
properties-
Cops.
Yeah, most of the
Um,
properties within the 100-foot review.
Actually, I can show you on our new GIS system, which is available to the public now, which is really nice. You should try it.
It is.
Let me pull it up for you and I will show you what it looks like.
It's no longer connected to Scrog? 'Cause that was
No,
brutal.
we have our new software. We use
New England
CAI.
Geosystems?
We're not using New England Geo, we're using CAI. Is our company here. So let me screen share this for you so you can see the area. So this is Cops Road here. I've got too many things open. Okay, Cops Road. And actually, this is our wetlands system kind of back in this area. It's all undisturbed at this point. Oops, sorry. And there's drainage that comes down this way. This is the barn garage that's going to be removed and a new one constructed with an existing lawn area. That's essentially the project. So there is an opportunity to visit individually or we can do a site walk. Oops, I went the wrong way, sorry. But that's essentially the property and the areas. If we put on topography, I believe it's relatively flat. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna make us all nauseous. I don't have the little roller on this mouse. It's going crazy.
like
I
I'm
won't touch it
skydiving.
anymore.
I feel like a
But-
parachutist. Whoa.
I'm sorry, that's terrible.
That's okay.
But it's relatively flat here, as you can see.
Okay, well, I think this is a toss-up. I mean, it's, we can drive by or we're out, we've got two we're doing, we can walk it. Does anybody have a strong feeling?
Do a walk, the wetlands, I mean, it is rather flat and the wetlands should be at the back or rear of the property. Tough to see from the road.
Okay, well, so let's walk it.
We're doing two others anyway.
Yeah.
I'd say yes.
So then we'll do 3 of the 4 receipts. We'll do-
Okay. And then as far as a significant activity, the Durham Road is within a water course, restoration, or, whether it's an excavation or a dredging of the pond, or a chemical treatment. I guess that's really up to you. It didn't strike me, none of these really struck me from a staff level as being significant activities requiring a public hearing, but I would
Right.
want to get your feedback as well.
Yes.
So
I didn't think any were at the public hearing level. Okay. All right, well, still moving. Okay, so there's, you had 1, 2, 3 section 13s.
Yes, 2 were deck or porch additions on sonotubes, and 1 was a septic repair within the upland on Chittenden. And all had approvals with conditions.
Right. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right, so meeting minutes. Did you guys have a chance to look them over?
I wasn't at the April meeting, so I'm gotta abstain from.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Joey can't, did you, oh, I thought you said something.
I wasn't able to see the minutes yet.
Okay, well, maybe.
I can't lie.
No, that's fine. Don't lie.
Darn it, Joe.
I was about to, but
Yeah, I thought they looked fine, but
Yeah.
but we can I don't think if 2 people are not gonna vote, can we vote on the minutes with the remaining people? I'm sorry.
Yeah, out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with 2 abstentions, it still would carry with 3.
Okay. All right.
I remember seeing the minutes and they looked good to me.
Okay. I read through them and they
Oh, Bob wasn't here
okay.
for
Oh,
that
he wasn't?
meeting. We might have to table the 4-3.
All
meeting.
right. So let's just table the minutes. We'll just make this simple.
The walk meeting you could probably do.
Oh, right.
You
We had
guys,
2.
you were
Yeah.
all at the walk.
Yeah. Okay. So the walk meetings are very short. It has the description of application and it says that Rob Sonicson was there, Bob Russo was there, Matt Rubano was there, the lawyer. That we heard the detailed location of the existing and proposed improvements on the site. Mr. Russo explained the limits of the field located in the wetlands. The agency members familiarized themselves with the property and tabled discussions to the next meeting on May 1st, 2023. It was adjourned at 8:40. So now we have all heard the minutes. All in favor?
I vote we approve.
Well done.
Okay.
Okay.
Got those
Excellent.
meetings done. Okay, I have a question for Aaron, just quickly. Where are
Yes.
we at on the Barbary Hill? Is that something we can expect to see at some point?
I thought so, but I don't know. So I will reach out and find out because we held the third party review money with the understanding that the applicant was immediately resubmitting. But as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, we may have to return that money and start the process over again.
Okay. Yeah, I just
so-
wondered, okay, because we have a public hearing on the 5th, so I don't think we want 2 public hearings. on
Which
the
we
5th.
wouldn't be able to because we don't have a receipt as of this
Oh, right,
evening.
right. So at
So
most-
in that sense, we're in the clear.
Okay, then that's fine. I just wanted to make sure
We
that.
may have a receipt by then.
Okay.
We'll see. Yeah,
Okay.
but I don't, unfortunately, I don't have an update on that.
That's
I was hoping to have had one.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't gonna have 2 public hearings on the same night. I think that's funny.
No.
Okay, do you have any comments, Erin?
I don't. Thank you for your time. This was a marathon meeting, but we got through some things. So our next agenda will be smaller. Well, actually not. We have 4 action items and a public hearing. So
That's who we invite, but anyway.
I take that back.
Well,
We need experts who speak quicker.
yeah, we cleared this out, so that was good. All right, I will entertain the last motion of the evening.
I move we adjourn this meeting.
Okay,
I'll
all
second.
right. All in favor? Yes. Okay, yay. Night.
Thanks, gang.